ever wonder what the fuck your purpose is out here, man? What you put on this earth for?
Here we go again.
Nah, for real, man.
Knowledge is self, super key, because everything else fell into place after that. My name is Terry Borderline. I'm from Somerville/Brockton. What I do and what my purpose is, I am a content creator. I'm an artist. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm a teacher. I'm a student. I'm an engineer. I'm a producer. I'm a fiance, and I'm a Gemini. What have I sacrificed to do it? I've sacrificed many toxic bonds and friendships. I've sacrificed bad habits. I've sacrificed judgments. I've sacrificed traumas. I've sacrificed, so many things. I just find the solution is to really, first of all, center on self, gain knowledge of self, gain some understanding of self, expand that to the culture, expand that to the community, expand that to everybody. Now you gain some freedom. Yeah. You gain that freedom, now you have some power, right? Once you get that power, you got some equality, you can gain some equity, right? Now you can build. Now you can, create whatever you want. There's steps to all these things, but you have to recognize the steps and where the processes are, not be so concerned by the distractions and pitfalls of others, as big they may be.
What's one of the more important things that you've learned along the way?
Discipline, love, community, God. Most importantly, a lot about myself. Knowledge is self, man. Super key. Because everything else fell into place after that.
But let me say, Terry Borderline, thank you very much for coming, bro.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you for inviting me. Peace.
Yeah,
Peace,
no
brother.
doubt.
Peace.
But it's a small world, and like to have you immediately come in here and then talk about SETI that way, have Beliefs talk about SETI that way. So the way I ran into him was I think I told you, I helped put on a TEDx event when I went to UMass Amherst. One of the speakers was Tony Blackman. She'll come on this year. Yeah. She's our hip-hop ambassador, cultural ambassador of the UN. We got one of those.
You told me a little bit about
and
that.
We would do ciphers in different parts of New York City weekly. And one day, these cats came down from like the Mass, Worcester area. SETI was one of them. And he was with a couple other rappers. One of them was real nice, like slightly bigger black dude with dreads, but like a lot of same vibe as us, a lot of jewelry and shit.
St. Nat?
Probably.
He
was nice.
He's the God MC, brother. Like, yo,
I'll tag him up in this part for sure.
He was, shout out to St. Nat. He also taught me so much about freestyling and hip hop and just life, bro. Because he's a 5%er. Yeah. And he dropped a lot of knowledge for me and helped me gain a lot of knowledge of self for myself and planted those seeds.
Yeah.
But he was recently on West Side Gun's album. Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Big feature for a Lynn artist. He's straight out of Lynn and he's killing it right now.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, I definitely saw something in him when he came through. And then it's funny because like SETI is damn near like my cousin's doppelganger. So like I was like automatically paid more attention to him in the room just because he looked like my cousin I looked up to when I was younger. Yeah. And then we were just vibing off the rip. So and then I kept his information. And fast forward, and this dude is a couple miles away and does the Cypher Clinic on Mondays and shit.
Yeah.
And I went through there, and we reconnected. So yeah, he'll be on one of the next production weekends I end up get going.
Yeah, he's doing the clinic at the Middle East right now too.
Oh, word. Okay.
Actually, I think he might have moved it since they done some recalibrating. I don't know if you heard they're selling the Middle East.
They're selling it, I was gonna say. Yeah,
they're selling the Middle East. So I don't know if that changed now.
How much? 40 mil?
40 mil. But people are seeking to buy it.
So is that Sonya's too, and like basically like everything they got?
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing.
It's such a needed venue.
Yeah,
too.
It's a pillar to the community, man.
For sure.
And the culture. And I look at it like this, where it's like, as long as it continues to be a pillar of the culture and the community, then I'm fine with whoever owns it next. I'm fine with whatever becomes next, as long as it remains a point of culture. You know what I'm saying? A place where people can see art, people can see musicians, people can see hip hop specifically, you know, because that's what the Middle East is known for. Yeah. If it loses that, then that's when I'm mad. You know, that's when I have a problem with it.
Like, it can't get like too. It's okay if it gets pretty, but it can't get too much out of the. It plays such a vital role for the come up of many different artists, right? Like there are the venues you go once you make it, and like arguably you got like Big Night Live and House of Blues, and I mean then you get to TD Garden at some point, but usually most artists like at a certain point, they stay around there. But the Middle East is one that's so important for like up and coming, like people who are grinding out on it and maybe haven't necessarily. Some have already made it and they're still going
and
there.
And the legends, you know, Eminem famously went there in 1999. You can still watch it on YouTube. You know, him and Royce the 5'9". You can see a young M in the Middle East, like, you know what I'm saying? Classic, legendary. You know, my first show that I ever went to was Farside at the Middle East. You know,
how old were you?
17. Yeah, I know, pretty late for a concert, right? But you know, life, man. I never really had the privilege of being able to just go to concerts. I was that dude who burned CDs and used Napster and Kazaa. And
I hustled the shit out of CDs, bro.
You know.
I'd be like, fucking 1 for $3, 2 for $5. I was up in there copywriting the shit out of everyone's stuff.
Yo, that was me in 8th grade, bro.
Exactly. Same with me. I go into shop class, but I got that new Twister, I got that new Kanye, I got that new fucking, but I mean, hey, now it's like I just put something in my story earlier, and because I didn't use the Instagram music, right? Like, and it didn't cut it down for America, but it's like, here's a list of countries that we're not allowing your story to play in. And not even like it's just like recording, and it was playing on another device. It wasn't even playing off of my phone.
I hate that. And because what I don't like about it is, there was once upon a time, remember when YouTube didn't have ads? Like, like there was once upon a time the internet was free. Like whatever you did on the internet was on the internet. If you didn't see it, you didn't see it. If you saw it, you saw it. But like, you know, it was like a Wild West. And I grew up during that, you know. I fell in love with the computer during that time. And to see it become what it is now, where it's like commercials every 2 seconds. You play a song, it's copyright infringement, they take it down. Like, you have people putting copyright disclaimers on their captions, like it's commonality now. And it's like, there's no reason for this, because we know they're taking all our data without permission, right? There's no copyright or consent or blah blah. They just give us the terms of agreement, which nobody reads. But honestly, now that I even think about it, they don't even give us that no more. When's the last time you even checked mark a terms of agreement? And
well, no, if you already got the platform, then once in a while you get pinged, and it's like, we just recently redid it, and you just want to be like, get the fuck off my screen, and you don't really go back.
But you're not required to read it. You know?
But the way we consume is digital now, and yet, like, because when the internet was a Wild West, it's a playlist heaven, because you want to get put onto something new. It's easy to find. And like that, and you know, I understand the copyright thing, but when we consume shit in a digital format now too, and it's no longer tangible things, then you can't take the same place that's now, like the internet is like the town square. Like when they have a conversation on what should and shouldn't be allowed on Instagram or Twitter, it's because they think of it like you're in the town square type of a vibe. And it's like, you can't tell me not to tell my boy about something, you know, like that's not cool.
It's freedom of expression.
Yeah, and if you're not making money off of it, then it's nothing but good promotion for anybody to throw that up there. So I've had a tiff with that.
Like, one of the most ironic moments that made me realize, like, this has gone out of hand, was when I was alerted to a copyright infringement of one of my songs, right? And then I'm thinking, like, yo, like, who's stealing my song or whatever? Because they made it seem like, oh, somebody stole your thing. Like, what are you gonna do about it on my email?
What platform alerted you?
It was YouTube, right? And so I'm reading the details about it, and it says like Hawk Inc., you know, claims a copyright over this song that I'm playing.
Oh, okay. Like you took something.
Yeah. So then I'm like, wait, what? That makes no sense because it's my song, right? So then I dispute the claim, right? I get another email. It's from another thing that I signed up for. It's called Identify, where they're supposed to basically pay you for when somebody plays your song.
When you rat on someone?
Yeah. So I realize I'm disputed a claim against myself. I'm like, oh wow, like the Hawk Inc. is Identify, and Identify is the one that copyrighted my thing. And somehow YouTube thought that I was a different entity, even though that is me. But then I'm like, yo, like, why are we doing all this? Just play the song. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. You know, at least to me as the artist who even created it. Yeah. You know?
If the platform playing it is not receiving a check monthly, then let them play it. I don't even care if, like, they make money on a different craft that's unrelated, and then even if it means that they're somehow getting a bump because they put it on, that's nothing but good for you. Facts. I mean, like, they should just have it on there.
Facts. And I'll tell you what, I haven't gotten a check yet from that. So
no, I mean,
you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, why would I, you know, if it was actually messing with my money, that's when it's like, all right, let's get lawyers together. Let me actually go through this process to do something. But I feel like we've automated our bureaucracy to the point where we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
For sure. Half the time, the artist would probably be like, let them fucking play it. But like when you just go to dispute it or whatever, I mean, it's all algorithms and a robot. Like even when you go to dispute it, like a human doesn't get involved until so much later on. You know, like I used to do a radio show at UMass Amherst. It was on 91.1 FM. Yeah. And this was back before the algorithm started getting really good with copyright. And I really wasn't doing anything wrong because I would take the show, and then I would put the show up on SoundCloud, and I would, you know, I'd have a little team of cats that worked for me, and we would tag up the artists on Facebook. Yeah. We would let them know the time that we played their song, whatever. And all we're doing is literally like putting in our work for free to basically be like, here's some dope shit and promote other people's work. Yeah. And then like about 6 months after I stopped doing the radio, after I graduated and stuff, I got the first like copyright complaint. And then I was like, oh shit. And like these are like, you know, 1,000 plays each, global plays, because they give you great statistics with it too. Yeah. And then I got the second one like 3 months later, and the night I got the second one, I was up all night basically downloading all the files, screenshotting all the users that followed me, because I was like, it's just a matter of time. And the next day I got the third strike and my account got deleted. So everything went away. And SoundCloud's like a digital company, so there's no one to call up and be like, listen, this was a radio show. Yeah. So I had every right to play all this and replay. We're not making any money off it. I did have all the rights to do it, but no one to do it. And then it's just like, it needs to become water under the bridge, right? You know, you can't just stay mad and not keep creating in some form. So
yeah, Instagram has no customer service really. SoundCloud has no customer service really. I was actually recently banned from Instagram for a week for using this app called Unfollow, the Unfollow app. It basically looks at, all right, these are the people who are following you and you follow them back. But these are the people who follow you, you follow, but they don't follow you back. And vice versa, you know, it gives you statistics that. So then you can unfollow people who don't follow you back, but then follow back people who follow you. You know, create like a mutual type thing. Yeah. I've used it for like maybe like 2-3 years or whatever. You know, it's been one of those kind of like little like secrets of the trade. Once you get this app, it's gonna allow your like ratios to get a little better. You know? Apparently now it's against the rules. Really? Right? Yeah.
I was about to be like, there's plenty of people I need to get out of who I am.
Right? Bro, I got banned from Instagram for a week, bro. I couldn't like anything. I couldn't share anything.
When was this?
Comment. This was.
Yeah, move this over low so I can see you.
Oh yeah. It was like, I think it was the first. Yeah, it was the first week. No, the second to last week of January. Sorry, second to last week of January.
I was gonna ask if it was recent because there was a point in time recently that I felt like I went to look for you and I didn't find you.
Yeah. Because I'm usually consistently posting, but yeah, I did go quiet for a little bit because I wasn't allowed to, you know. And
so why is that not allowed?
So see, that's the thing. Where who do you talk to figure that out? I try to call the customer service. The hotline was dead. You know, there's no.
But you're
customer
sure it's because of that?
What?
From using that app?
Yes, because as soon as I had to log into the app. Mm-hmm. When I logged into the app was when I got banned. You have to log in through Instagram on the app. And so you know how sometimes when you log in through multiple devices, Instagram will say, hey, is that you? Yeah. We got multiple. They've done that to me before, but this time they didn't even ask, oh, is that you? They just banned me. Just banned me straight. And they said it was because they think I was using apps that were manipulating my likes and views. But I'm like, bro.
So you could do it. You guys could do it all you want.
Yeah.
And not let anyone know about it. And meanwhile, my feed's filled with shit that I don't want to see. And I got to one by one get people out of here.
And it's like, I'm not going to do that. I don't have the time to do that. That's what makes unfollow highly convenient, you know? Yeah. But yeah, man, they banned me for it. So I took it for what it was. I did so much stuff that week and I wasn't able to follow up with it on social media that it really frustrated me. So I was just like, you know what? After this, I'm not using unfollow anymore. I'm going to just, But then it also made me realize a thing that, somebody told me a long time ago, which is that you can't really let your brands depend on social media, which is like companies that we don't own, like I don't own Instagram, right? I don't own YouTube, right? And so it's the moment they decide to ban me, they decide to affect whatever business I create on their platforms.
If that's all you got running is them, then
that's it. Kaput, And thankfully, my business is not like that.
Yeah.
But it gave me a glimpse at what that looks like, and also the aspect where it's like, right? You have somebody like Rihanna. Mm-hmm. Rihanna ain't never going to get banned for a week, no matter what tactics her Instagram team uses to do whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But then you take somebody like me and, maybe I'm trying to get to an audience level like Rihanna, where it's like I have 1 million, 2 million followers or whatever. Instagram is going to do everything they can to stop me. And that whole week made me see that, where it was like I was having 275 profile visits for that week. And then it dipped down to like 60, like whatever, because I'm not posting nothing. And I'm yo, like, why you guys got to do this to me? And I'm not. If I wanted to fake it, I'd have like 10,000 followers and 1 billion likes already and da-da-da. Like, bro, I got like 100. I got like 50.
Yeah, I won't fake it
I don't get enough likes for it to even be suspicious. Yeah. How does that equate to me having fake followers or whatever, So it has to be the unfollow app, like that was.
You talk to anybody else that that fucks with it to see if it kept doing it? Or?
No, but I did see reviews online where people were saying the same thing happened to them.
Damn.
There were reviews online where people were saying that.
The other part is like it's algorithms and numbers. So like. It's not always that because there isn't a person involved, then it is all digital and numbers is like, it's not Instagram trying to shut you down. It's like it's a lack of people involved in the way that they need to standardize the process type of a thing.
It's too automated.
Yeah.
It's too automated.
But it's hard to get like everything you want could you imagine being Mark Zuckerberg and then Facebook becoming what it became and then now being like, wait, you're telling me it's my fucking job to go and police the town hall? Like, and it's every gun manufacturer isn't held accountable for fucking every death that gets thrown from that gun, it's a hard thing to.
I definitely agree. And so that's where it's like, at the end of the day, where I just have to learn to move better. And I think it was a personal lesson for myself, where it's like, all right, take a break off of social media. It literally like it conditioned me. Do you know how frustrating it is to compulsively press the like button and then a block comes up like boop, you can't like anything, and I'm like it trained me to not be consistent, to not be consistently on social media, all the way to the point where sometimes I will look at things on social media that I actually genuinely like, and I forget to even press the heart now, because during that week block,
you
weren't
allowed to anymore.
I wasn't allowed to. And you know, I just appreciated life more. You know, sometimes everything doesn't have to be caught on camera.
I mean, it's good to get a break from it. I don't know if it's probably before you and I linked, but I did this thing this year and actually got a big amount of people in. I did Sober October, but the way we did it was like, there were several required categories, from like not drinking, not smoking was a pick. People could pick 5 out of 9, so that, you know, there's some that people, I did them all, right? The only one I didn't do was yoga, because I just didn't have the money to be doing yoga, but I did them all. And one of them was less than 20 minutes of social media a day. And the amount of people that were just
20
like
20 minutes.
Yeah, the amount of
that's a challenge.
I did damn near. I mean, I definitely, when I was doing Tourage shit for the podcast, there was times where like, I had to be on it longer, but my average was under 20 minutes after the end of the month, and like I got it down. I'd be like throwing up my screenshot of like my weekly stat of less than 20 minutes, but it's difficult. And like for people like you and I that have work that we have to do in social media, it's one thing, but when you're not doing work or networking related things in there, to me at least, there's never such a thing as a great day that I aimlessly spent several hours on social media. Yeah. Like getting caught up in porn and social media and drinking, whatever, when you're barreling down the path of one of those mindless, impulsive things, rabbit hole. Usually there's other things that aren't aligned in your life. And like my boy, Nick, did it, and he's like, dude, I can't even describe like the reflex of like before I even know it, I'm on my phone and Instagram's up and I'm scrolling, and then I realized, shit, I said I'm gonna do less than 20 minutes a day, and it just, you get dry. It is like, it's a addiction to serotonin blips. Everything that makes you feel good in a certain way, whether that's a heart on you or a picture you like or something like that, you know, it's a lot. And then you're, bad posture, you're down.
No, it's crazy that you even brought up pornography, because
that was one. And I'll tell you, the women, there was far, and you would think it would be more of the men being like, are you kidding me? I think they were the same, they just didn't say it. But the amount of women that voiced, because it was a mandatory category. No porn. You could still masturbate, but you couldn't do it to porn for the month of October. The amount of women that were pissed off about it. I think that also just goes to show their lack of like good men in their life. Whatever. But like,
I mean, it's when you research the history of pornography, right, and the history of like, the type of pornography we engage in now, the effects that it has on the brain, and things like the Coolidge effect, right, which is like the idea that once a male rodent, but in our case, like, right, a male human, right, or has, or in a case is female as well, right, has sex with somebody, right, they then become less interested in having sex with them again. It becomes,
what's that cow thing? The cow that doesn't ever fucking the cow again. Yeah,
exactly. But then you bring a new one in, the Coolidge effect restarts. Now they're passionate, right?
That's why you shouldn't be fucking the friends that there's a sexual attraction to, because your friendship will get fucked up. Even if you were great friends before.
You sound like from experience.
I mean, if you're 30 years old and you can't talk about that experience, you need to have more fucking fun.
You need more friends.
You need more friends, you need more fun.
But like when you read into it, it's like pornography takes advantage of all these things, right? You're dealing with a video simulation of sex that is stimulating your mind and sensories, perception in all different ways, and then you're able to have it at your whim at a high variety, right? Like, that's gonna mess with your serotonin, that's gonna mess with your dopamine, that's gonna mess with your choices.
It's gonna mess on how you think women,
how you expect women to perform,
or
right?
to want to perform, or what they think is comfortable, and what
so much stuff. And then when you start to look at it, right? Because I never thought about it that way until I started like.
Not to mention someone else is in the room with them. That's something that's usually not.
First of all, they're actors, right? They're actors and actresses simulating these things. Exactly. They're they might not even enjoy it. A lot of them don't, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? They're acting, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at the titles, right? Some of them are like stepdad, stepdaughter, and
we're
you know,
finding ways to be more taboo at this point.
We're finding ways, but then it's like, right? Stepdad can't do that to stepdaughter in real life.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Right?
what kind of fucking role model, what kind of, what am I trying to say here?
What kind of seeds are we planting
Exactly.
to manifest inside our realities, right? Because we got people thinking about these things now,
Mm-hmm.
fantasizing about these things, and they're doing it on the regular, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I decided to quit it, right, it was a battle, right?
I bet, yeah.
Yeah, like over and over again, I found myself like, yo, like I can't help myself or whatever
yeah.
at certain points. And then when I realized like, wait, hold on, I need to recalibrate literally my brain. And that takes time. You know, they say, I think it takes 90 days to create a habit. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, if I make it 90 days, my brain will be reset and I will no longer view this in a way where it's like, yo, this is better than real life. Because, right, I've been with my lovely fiance for 10 years, right? She's way better than anything I could find on a computer screen. This is logic, right? But then we don't think logically when we deal with those types of things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, like, I had to literally grow out of it. And when I grew out of it, I found my love life increase, you know, with my lovely fiance. I found just my choices in words and how I viewed people and women specifically change, right? Like no longer was I find myself like instinctively like checking ass out or checking tits out or being like, oh, she's hot or she's hot and whatnot. You know, I got in the habit of doing that as a teenager and being into that, being so visual with how I perceived people. But now I'm getting to know people on a more spiritual level, on a more energetic level, vibrational level. So now I'm not looking for those things. I don't see those things. Pornography isn't conditioning me to, right?
Yeah.
And now I find my relationships with people blossoming, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's in my family, friends, strangers, right? You know, you could be the baddest woman in the room, you know, tits out all over. I'm not looking, bro. I'm not. It's not even a challenge for me, you know. And that's what I find beautiful. That's true freedom, you know.
That's a lot of growth. I'm sure that comes from growth in a lot of areas in your life. Not just no porn, but no porn definitely is gonna play a huge role in that, you know.
Yeah, because
like,
I mean, we all have our own personal weaknesses and demons, you know. Like I think that was just one of mine, you know.
Yeah.
But then it's like other people, it may be something else. It could be something like, oh, you know, maybe you cheat, you're not faithful, you know, or maybe it's like, oh, I can't perform because I'm used to being put in a painful position and things like that. But it's you know, you shouldn't be inflicting pain on yourself. You know, people get put through all these things and they have their own different forms of like demons they have to work through where like they can be told by other people, oh yeah, that's normal. But is that person who's telling you it's normal happy?
Yeah,
right?
Don't take advice from someone who's giving you advice and in the area they're giving you advice on about is not how you want your life to be like. If you're getting relationship advice, make sure it's from someone who got a relationship that you want one day, that you want a relationship more like that. See, like my thing, and what I told everybody was like, listen, because because I blew it up because I'm like, I'm doing the podcast. I got several hundred people on an email list. You know, this is about making me better for the reasons I want to do it. I might as well share the challenge with people. And 70 people got in and about 20 really went all the way through with it. And like, there was a nice sense of community throughout it. But when I got all the pushback on social media and porn and whatever else I included in that, I was like, I was trying to let people know this isn't, nothing about this challenge is saying like, you have an issue right now or how you live your life right now is necessarily wrong. This is about building more discipline, about being better with commitment, and about not making your life about instant gratification and impulsive desires that you're fulfilling. So to me, the porn one, aside from everything we just talked about, was like, okay, you want to go do the most, arguably like the most divine thing in the planet, which is like, you know, while you're having sex, like the most divine thing. They say, they even have like, there's these practices back in the day that's like the only time a man could ever really experience God is in that moment that he's like, you
that's
know.
That's like Tantra.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like you want to go and maybe it's not sex, but it's masturbation. But go have a form of that moment and then you're tying it to I just gotta like all I gotta do is turn on this website and go look at this and then find whatever I want and then be done with it. You're not even using your imagination. The impulse and instant gratification that's involved with that. Yeah. When like no wonder why you have a group of people that are involuntary celibates because they have no, like back when we were kids, like I remember it was hard to find titties on the internet, right? Yeah. Imagine now like the work that you need to put in to find a good woman, to have a good relationship, to have a good sex life is not just point and click and I have it right now. There. And you'll notice a big difference on your energy levels after sex with someone you love or after blowing a load to some random image of a bunch of people faking online. You'll get tired in one and you'll still be tired and pass out in one, but you'll feel revitalized the next day versus empty in some way.
There's something you can't replace human flesh, right? You can't replace the human soul. You can't replace a human connection, right? And so as much as, and you know, like shout out to my homie Dooley, right? He's a shaman, right?
Okay, I'll tag him up, so make sure, what's his Insta?
Third Mind Spirit, Third Mind Spirit. I
think I started following him. I think you told me about him before after we were talking about ayahuasca.
He dropped knowledge to me one time about how right, we live in this society with robots and technology integrating with our society, right? And if you think about it on that level, then pornography and how pornography is progressing is leading to us having sexual relationships, literally with robots, for sure. Right? And, you know, you have simulated butts and you got the fleshlight and
just wait. Just wait.
You know, you got dolls and you got all these things that are already leading towards that direction. The VR, you know, they have VR pornography. You know,
just wait till they get that fucking fake body down a little bit more.
And so it's like we're literally building human robot relationships now, and you know, there's gonna be consequences to that. You know what those consequences are. We've yet to see, but in my personal opinion, nothing replaces the relationship and love that can come between a human and another human, right?
Well, like the most important thing in a relationship is that the person you're in it with holds themselves accountable. And the moment, because it's not how you and your fiance, like in order for you guys to get along right, then when she does something wrong, she needs to be willing to call herself out on it and try to do better for herself. And all she should really want to expect of you is for you to still be you. But if you did something wrong, to acknowledge it and try to be accountable for yourself. And the moment you start taking human emotions and interactions and roping them in to something that, I mean, is not going to hold you accountable and doesn't need to hold itself accountable, you've taken out the work involved in becoming more evolved.
Yeah, I agree.
And, you know, a lot of, I think, what those repercussions are going to be ones that people don't realize it until years later when they have less relationships and never really, no wonder you haven't developed a relationship with anyone because you blow your load looking at porn all the time. You have a relationship with this robot. I mean, like, I heard a funny thing in a podcast where they were talking about, like, I wonder what would happen if women just like if you switch roles for a second and it was like guys, just anyone would fuck every guy and it was women that were the ones that needed to do a bunch of the work, and because a woman could go into a room 100 guys and be like, hey, who wants to fuck me, and someone's gonna show up. If it's the other way around, I mean, that's a sketchy situation. You know what I mean? So like the work that goes into being a better person, being a better mate, being a better significant other, when those start being taken out, you're not really going to see that.
I mean, what I find interesting is that I see that those dynamics even changing now, right?
Oh, for sure.
Where it's like, you know, once upon a time, you know, a woman could go in a room and be like, yo, who wants to fuck? And like anybody would jump on her, right? And then like vice versa, a man would have a much harder time, right? But then it's like, I've seen somebody making a post recently where it's like, you know, women are sleeping with men like men used to sleep with women now. Like where it's like, you know, women will just be like, yo, I want some dick. and
if you know, called Tinder.
There's a thing called Tinder. You know, like the mentalities and the dynamics have changed. You know,
but why? Because you don't need to be in front of them in order to fucking set the line and catch something. Your realm of social media, whether that's in Tinder or Instagram or everything, yes, thousands of people are seeing it, and thousands of people might be able to read your comment and see your picture or whatever, but you ain't in a room. Every asshole that makes some comment that something ain't right in their life because of how they decide to make a comment, and they're like, say that to me in the room right now, right? These aren't things that you say to another person face to face, and the realm of interaction has just changed.
Yeah, I agree. There are certain things you would say online that you definitely wouldn't say in person, right? There are certain connections and bonds that you will make in person that you could never make online, right? And it's like people miss out on those experiences. I do know this, right? And I guess this is the positive aspect of technology and all that. Some people do meet through those dating apps and whatnot. I'm pretty sure my brother met his boyfriend through a dating
one of
app.
those,
Yeah, I forgot which one, but I'm pretty sure it was through one of those. If it wasn't, it was through work, but then they did use it. Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those. But anyways, I've met a couple people who've met people through the apps, right? And they had long-lasting, loving relationships, probably still have them, And, some people who do use those apps and probably the wrong way, where it's like, why are you still using this app, And
you can't help people from getting off Instagram.
Yeah.
So imagine trying to get someone off of something where the reward is not just a like, it's potentially some dick. Right, that's difficult.
And then combine that with our pornography conversation.
Exactly.
It's like that on crack.
Which is what I mean. When we're lucky, we're probably just the ages that skipped out on the fact that there is a group of people called incels, involuntary celibates, who don't want to not have sex, but they don't. It's like, get the fuck off the internet and go meet some.
I didn't know that's what it meant. That's what
incel means. Involuntary celibate.
So
they want to have sex that they can't find anyone to have sex with them.
But they're doomed to never.
It's really a group that always existed, that was always never gonna. They're the 40-year-old virgins. They just got a voice now and they're pissed. So they're like, fuck it, I'm gonna post about it too.
And it's funny because I've learned and I've grown so much over the years, and I really do think it lies within self. If somebody is a so-called incel, right? It's like, you have not truly found yourself, man, and you're beating yourself up because of that.
Yeah.
Because
you're placing your worth in the wrong places.
And people see that, which is why people can't build relationships with you. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, in order to grow out of that, you have to grow into yourself. You have to be proud of who you are. You have to, I think of somebody like, you ever hear that? That forum 4chan?
Yeah.
So 4chan is like a big internet forum, right? It was started by this dude named Moot, who's like, he's like your standard definition of like a quote unquote incel, right? Doesn't like go out or anything like that. But when 4chan blew up, and then he created this whole army of so-called incels, right? All these people who are miserable and just
it's a hilarious army.
Yeah. Like they, because I was on the forum too, and I had a lot of racist stuff on there. But then it's like that's America, so it was good to be on there and see America for what it is rather than it being censored. But that's a different conversation. But he seemed like, I've created this whole website of incels. I need to change my life. He sold that thing, got himself a girlfriend, started being regular and growing into himself. Like when I say regular, I don't mean no formal standard, but really finding his own balance within himself, right? Instead of moving to extremes to please an audience, right? And I feel like the whole nice guys finish last trope that a lot of these incels use to like this is why I can never get anybody. I'm a nice guy. Nobody wants a nice. It's like, you're really not a nice guy, bro.
Or you are, and you just ain't associating with the right people that should be respecting good people. You know, that appreciate it. You're too concerned with trying to impress the people that have all of their values and morals caught up in the wrong direction. You're trying to impress the wrong crowd. That's part of your issue.
Even the term nice, right? the term nice isn't like how we use it in everyday language, right? Like nice is kind of like fronting or like finessing, like truly,
like how emotional is tied more to like being acting like a bitch
Yeah.
than it is to say like I am a really emotional person. So if Terry talks about something, I do a great job being able to actually try to put myself in his shoes and
perceive those
embody
emotions.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Instead, it gets turned.
it
I see
gets
what
turned
you're
into
saying.
something else.
Yeah.
The word kind is more so what people look for, which is, you know, actually being selfless and being altruistic with your intentional actions, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of these so-called nice guys, they're not really kind people, you know? They're not going around doing things selflessly for other people. They're you know, probably trying to find the most like stereotypically hot girl to like European or like, you know, whatever video game standards or whatever world you come from, you know, and then if that person doesn't fit their fantasy, you know, their pornographic standards, right? Sometimes if that person
standards, right?
Hella standards. If it doesn't fit their fantasy, y'all are the bad guys. I'm involuntarily celibate, like, and it's like, yo, like, grow up. You just really got to grow up, you know. Like, we all live in a world where we had to grow up and we had to learn to love each other and put our differences aside and build relationships off that. And you can too.
Have you ever seen the OA?
No, I've been told to watch it.
You should. I think you would like it from conversations we already had and this one. But there's this one part. It hits on no spoiler alert. It hits on a similar point. But the main character is talking to this dude who's talking about this girl that kind of just uses him for sex, you know, so she's ready for college and isn't really interested in him. And she says, I'm going to paraphrase it, but she says something to the effect of like, she probably has like noticed that like you're really focused on like your outer self, like he's like, you know, really good shape, everything like that. But like she probably noticed that like because you've spent so much time working on the outside, you probably have less developed on the inside. So she's not thinking about what you are on the inside or anything just because you're over here like selling yourself as the outside only type of thing. You haven't like opened up. And the whole like working on your inner self thing, like that's so important. It's going to change how you look at the rest of the entire world when you get better. I mean, everyone that is thrown, you know how you feel when you're having a good day, the shit don't bother you versus on a day when you're having a bad day and like everything can bother you. Like when you're content with you, then you look at everything better. Everything looks
peace,
better.
you know?
Yeah, that's
bliss,
good. Yeah, and it's important to work on that. Like you're gonna be a lot happier if you work on that for sure.
Yeah, I actually had an epiphany about that recently where, you know, sometimes people will ask me, "Oh, Terry, why are you so happy all the time?" You know, it's always peace, bless, manifest, you know, peace, king, da. You know, and it's like, it's not about being happy. It's about being at peace, you know, like finding bliss, right? When you are at peace and you find bliss, then it doesn't matter what's happening in the outside environment. You are internally still. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And once you have that internal stillness, you can vibrate anywhere, bro.
Oh, like, yeah, for sure.
And it's wild where the multiverse will take you when you follow that. You know? Cause fear is a vibration too, and you don't have to really give into it all the time. That's usually the biggest one that holds people back. People will feel fear and then they don't want to do something. And a lot of people are afraid to be at peace. A lot of people are afraid to feel bliss. People are afraid to be happy.
Sometimes I feel like, so there's this line on I think it might be on one of Dre's album, and it's where on a Anderson .Paak song, or maybe it's a Paak album. But what's his name? The dude that went into making beats with Dre, famous producer. But either way, they sample him, and he's like, you got to learn how to take that fear and get it to push it from behind you instead of stopping you and standing in front of you, right? But
cool.
I know. I just got fucking chills, right? It's shit that gets me going. But I'll tell you, like, there was like, you know those phrases that you hear a million times, but it's nothing like the million and first time that it finally makes sense to you. Yeah. So there's plenty of times you could tell someone, about manifesting, about being in the moment, about taking that fear and using it to push you instead of stop you. Yeah. They need to go through
the moment.
They need to understand first and foremost what being in the moment is, because if they don't, you're just woo shouting spiritual shit at them all day.
They
need to see it happen in their own life. They need to put that together, and then that million and first time, and it makes sense. And then those probably start shouting it from the rooftops too. Yeah. But it takes a little bit of like getting some life behind you and actually seeing it. Like you tell someone about manifesting that's never actually taken into it. First of all, that isn't someone that pushes shit out into the universe to ever see one stick and come back. I mean, like this is manifesting right here. This is, we're doing it right now, man. We're gonna bring different people from Boston together. This is it. You speak it out loud and it could come true. And all of the great minds from Nipsey Hussle to Gandhi down, what they're saying the same shit. Thing. Spoke some things in the universe, and then they appear, right? Like,
not everybody experiences that.
No, and you know what? If you're not willing to for it to be a possibility, then you might not go through it.
Yeah, that's real.
If you're not open to it. But at in your later 20s, you should realize by now that intuition and gut isn't just something people talk about. No. It's a real thing. Damn. How many things have you been like, I need to stop fucking with this dude. I shouldn't do that. Like you just know that you got to turn a certain way, and you just had a feeling. You know your alarm's about to go off. Whatever it is, like there's a certain point in time in your late 20s where there should now be some big life things that you've either manifested, and you can manifest negative shit easily.
You can.
You could be the reason why you always getting into fights. If you're over here like, yo, I go out and just like for some reason trouble follows me. Guess what? It's still gonna follow you. If you're still talking like that, it's still gonna follow you. But watch out, just not saying that no more and putting that out in the universe and just literally thinking like, nah, tonight's gonna be a good night. I got no issues with nobody. And that's why like the more comfortable you are with your person on the inside is good, because you ain't gotta put on some weird front in order to activate in the world. You can be who you are on the inside and be cool with it. That's why I grew up doing martial arts. All of the cats that were serious about martial arts, some of the best people you'll ever run into, because they are men, and men are usually the ones that got a lot of the issues. They're men that they know they're comfortable enough with themselves to know that they can protect themselves. So that's not what they're thinking about when they socialize or go out into a place. They don't have all this testosterone going around because they know that they don't need to pump their chest out and look hard and do this and that. They ain't worried about that. They have a much different aura in the room from someone who's not comfortable with who they are, you know?
Yeah, no, that's true. The most calmest individuals will usually be the ones who've already noticed all the exits in the room. They'll know how to beat you in 2 seconds, assemble, disassemble a gun. Like, I know those people. Like, they're going to be the ones with the smiles. Like, hey, nice to meet you. They're going to speak soft, all that, Yeah. And I think about like what you're even speaking about earlier when you're saying that that quote about what pushes you, taking the fear and it pushing you, right? It reminds me of something another good friend of mine told me. I can't remember which friend, but then they told me that energy you feel when you're nervous, that's that same energy, right?
Well, that's why it's called fight or flight.
Fight or flight.
Because you could either run the fuck away like a little bitch and get out of there, or you could take that and you could pick up that's how moms save children. They pick up a fucking car. A little lady picks up a car. That's what you can do when you can take it. That fear can become a physical strength as well. Like,
yeah, man. And when I was told that, like, yo, use this nervous energy. That means they said when you're nervous, that means what you're doing is important, and it's more important to do it now.
Yeah, for sure. And it'll cripple you when you don't. Yeah.
And that pushed me every single time I feel that nervous energy to do something, to accomplish it, and make sure I'm there for it, Yeah. And it's worked out every single time. I've grown because of it. You know?
And that's like the first time you do anything, you should be nervous, but you also know, fast forward, and now you got moments where that same thing that used to scare the shit out of you, and make you nervous or anxious or whatever, it's just something that you're doing later at 4.
Yeah,
and you get to be here now and not worry about that. You grow. And
you get desensitized to it, you know? And
in a good, once again, in a good way. There's negative desensitization and there's positive ones.
Right, and a great example of negative desensitization, right? I went through a period.
Porn would be an example.
Porn's a good example. But I went through a period of like depression in middle school as well, right? Where I was thinking suicidal thoughts, right? I didn't like the fact that, you know, this is me looking back retroactively. Back then, I didn't fully understand this, but I didn't like the fact I couldn't control my day-to-day activities at school. I had to go home, not control my day-to-day activities at home. I'm a young kid. I can't make choices in my day-to-day, and I have these adults telling me, hey, you can't make choices. You're too young to make choices, even about whether I'm happy or not about things, right? So that gets me to the point where I remember thinking this moment like it was yesterday. And I remember it so much because I promised myself to never think like that again. But I remember saying like, man, every time something bad happens to me, I'm going to be happy about it. That's the worst mentality to have. You know, some people think that that's what positivity means. That's not what positivity means. Sometimes you will push yourself into a feedback loop of negativity because you consistently expect it and you enjoy it, so to speak, right? And it's it's like an almost reverse calibration of what you're supposed to be doing, which is, you know, enjoying strides towards happiness or strides towards contentment or satisfaction or whatever. You know, but yeah, it took me down a deep path where I eventually had to recognize I started drinking more hard liquor and things like that. I had to recognize like, hey, I have to clean up my life, right? And it wasn't until I got into spirituality, I fell in love, I started pursuing my dreams in music, that I started to look back at how dark those times were, and I realized what was happening. And if I stayed going down that path, I probably would have taken my own life at a certain point, you know, because I was thinking those thoughts and I was enjoying it, you know, and that's the key thing. When you trick yourself to enjoy those things, that's when it gets dangerous. And it's like everybody has their dark times, but you have to recognize when it's like, all right, I have to heal. I have to come back into the better sides that exist for me and live out my potential. There is an abundance of potential that exists out there and the multiverse. And even if they didn't teach you that in school or teach you that at home, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And once you're able to tap into that, there are no limits. Once you know there are no limits, it's like, why are you being so sad? Right? Like, that's crazy.
Well,
like,
let me cheers you for that, because first of all, you're a champion and you're a survivor.
Oh, hell yeah. Thank you.
And that's, I've gone through the entire depression thing. Been to hell and back. That's not an easy thing. And let me just say, momentum's a funny thing. The momentum is real. It's got a lot to do with how the universe just works out and things like that. But the same way there could be positive momentum, there's negative momentum. Like, for example, like you realize it's easy to be mad, and and sometimes it's even easier to do other things aside that aren't related to your emotions, but to go throughout your day, like, even though you'll still keep getting mad at different things, but like, it's easy to stay mad. It's always harder in a fight with someone else to be an adult, be whatever, have a real conversation about it and move on. And when you meet someone that you could argue with and then be done with the argument and then miss a blip and then keep going throughout that's a different type of person. And you got to keep them around in any aspect that you got them. But it's way easier to just keep arguing than it ever is to not. Now, the same goes for that momentum if you just think that bad things are going to happen to you and to be happy about it, or to be, or just to be mad all of the, it's gonna be easy to just stay that way. And it is. So I'm glad that like you caught that, because I'm sure that there's someone right now that's thinking about blowing their fucking brains out and hasn't caught that, or just went so down the rabbit hole that like they never were able to bounce back from it. And it's sad. And that's why conversations like this do change the world for who the fuck knows will listen to it.
Definitely. The one phrase somebody should never ever tell themselves is, and if you tell yourself this, definitely stop telling yourself this is my new normal. Right? Sometimes people will convince it like, this is my new normal now. Like, I guess I'm just here now. Don't ever do that to yourself. Well, whatever you wanted to be when you were a kid, you can always still be that. Whatever you want to be now, you can always still be that. Have aspirations, have dreams, and then you know, push towards them, set intentions towards them, do every single thing that you can in this life for it, and you'll make it out, man. Yeah, cheers to you, man. I didn't know you went through those struggles too, but it makes sense. It makes sense why our paths have crossed.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I started the podcast, including make sure other dope artists like yourself get some light. I want it to be like an art generation, accelerator machine, right? In order to like push it to a bunch of people. But at the end of the day, it's also because I'm a Cancer. I love teaching, and all the jobs I've ever had, I always became a trainer and train. And like, I would hate that it would take several months for someone to tell me what you could have told me on the first fucking day, and I needed to put the pieces together myself. So when you end up, you know, I got thrown out of a Jeep, I landed on my fucking head, almost died, but my boy did die. I was blacked out while I was seeing him, and all this shit went down, and many other things in my life that just, then I became a guinea pig for the doctors for like 8 years of just like, here's this medication and this one and this one. They're all fucking with me and wrong. But at the end of the day, there was so much shit that like I could have just watched one. I watched they started putting me on a Klonopin, right? Not a lot, but that's an entirely other conversation. Episode 7 with Kathleen, I get into that, but that's a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, you know, it's like you're taking things to heal the brain that aren't. It's not actually fixing the problem. The doctors half the time don't know what they're talking about, and if you know benzo withdrawal, and even when withdrawal is like an intimidating word, like, oh, he's abusing it or whatever. And no, this is what the doctors gave me. It was a YouTube video that when I was I'd gotten to such a low point that I basically was like, okay, you're just broken. You're a broken individual. You like to the point where I didn't verbalize to anybody yet about how bad the depression was. And it got to a point where I felt like I couldn't leave my place. All these other, when you look at Wikipedia's benzo withdrawal list, so that's Xanax or Klonopins and that bracket of things, it's a longer withdrawal list than anything else, and it's a mental one. So for a while, I just thought I was fucked up and I was a broken individual, right? They don't tell you that if you take a benzo for a little bit, you could be mentally unstable for 6 to 18 months after you're done taking it. You stop taking Xanax. If you take Xanax, a milligram or something like that a day, you could stop taking it. Couple of weeks go by, you're fine. Month, 2 months goes by, and it just drowns in the anxiety, the depression. So you're not associating it with the fact that you got off of something. No one told you this is going to happen. It was a YouTube video that when one day I finally went on YouTube and did benzo withdrawal, and I reached out to the girl when I started doing the podcast. I let her know how big of a difference it was. She starts talking. Everything she's saying, and then every other person that I watched in that video was everything I was going through. And it was also this as fucked up, and you know, it felt like the first day of the rest of your life. It never feels like it's ever gonna be better again. But that was 2016. That was like December 24th, 2016. Haven't touched one since. And like, when you can see that bro. Thank you, appreciate it. But for what you're saying too, when people could see someone else is going through this, it's not just me. They made it, I could make it too, right? Seeing her talk about that was like, okay, this isn't me. This is what something's causing me to think like and do. Every medication they could put you on for anti-anxiety, though most of the time the doctors try to join it with antidepressants because they say most antidepressants are joined with anti-anxiety, so we'll just put you on the same one because you're exhibiting characteristics of the other one. But all of them have this effect where it's like, you know, first of all, someone died. I saw it around. I fucking had a huge traumatic brain injury and definitely have CTE from it. You should be going through some grief and anxiety after that. The answer is not to. I'm not saying that there aren't people that don't need it or that it doesn't work, But for me, what I went through was like, you should be going through some grief and anxiety in a time like that. The answer isn't necessarily put you on this. Now, what they don't tell you about that is that if you're someone that normally could go through, you know, you're already the 10% that are more inclined to be addicted or have depression or whatever, you normally have, maybe you'd be depressed for like a year, and then you get over it and you go on with your life. And maybe, you know, 5 years later, it pops back up again for a year. Okay, if you have anxiety and you go on an anti-anxiety, even if that anxiety was one of those, you know, event things, or would have only been with you, or the depression would have only been with you for a year or whatever, taking that medication is basically saying, I'm agreeing that I want this to come back way harder for way longer if I ever stop taking this medication. Wow. And first of all, you don't know that. So that means that if you do ever decide I'd like to do this on my own and work on shit myself and stop taking things, you're in for a run of some depression and anxiety that you have no idea is going to come from you just not taking it anymore.
That hurts, man. I've never taken any type of medication for antidepressants, anxiety, or anything like that. I know a lot of people who do, right? And I think a lot about how, you know, anxiety is like a epidemic these days. You know, a lot of people suffer from anxiety.
Same with depression. More affluent the country.
And really, sometimes, a lot of the times, they're chained and they're linked. You know, the anxiety leads to depression. Depression leads to things like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. And, you know, there are cases of these things.
Schizophrenia is genetic. It's got to be in your bloodline.
It has to be in your bloodline.
It could stay dormant, but you might make it pop up. But there is a progression.
I've seen it happen. Like I know people it's happened to.
Yeah, me too. And it's weird.
Yeah,
it's different.
And so I'm the type of person, I see factors. There are a lot of societal factors that induce anxiety in people, right? And when they try to cure it by giving people, by first telling people that they're sick for having this anxiety, I mean, they are being...
Yeah, like something's wrong with you.
Like something's wrong with them inherently.
And most of the time, it's more like a physical trigger to let you know you need to change something about how you're living.
Whether it's the diet, whether it's the people around you, the lifestyle, whether it's the work that you do. Some people live under the worst work conditions, and they wonder why they have anxiety.
Or depression.
Or depression.
Yeah, because you're living a depressed-ass life. Yeah, and you're so unwilling for the comfort of financial security or whatever else to try to go out on a limb and be who you are, that you are like, you don't do what you want to do every day. You don't see who you want to see every day. You don't talk to people that you want to talk to every day. You don't have close relationships. You don't exercise, and you eat out of convenience because you got to get it to work by 9, and the gym's gotten out of your life, and being outside's gotten out. No wonder why you're fucking anxious and depressed, bro.
You know,
like, come on now.
And then once you take the pills, because that's the first thing they want to put on you, right? Now you're telling me they're signing you up for years of it. Yeah. Chronically.
Basically. Not everyone, but basically.
Not everyone, but that's heartbreaking. Because it's like, you know, people are seeking help. Yeah. Right? This reminds me of another epiphany that I had, right? Which is that most of the things that we naturally do as people, right, have been re-engineered to poison us. Right? I'll start with tobacco for one, right? Tobacco is a sacred Native American plant. It's one of the mapacho, beautiful, beautiful plant. Awesome energy and spirit that you have to honor, right? Yeah. You honor mapacho honors you back. Yeah. Right? So how does mapacho go from this medicine and spiritual deity that was gifted to us by the Great Spirit to Newports and menthol and rat
poison and everything,
and giving people emphysema and crystallizing their lungs and you know, right? Another one, you know, cocaine, right? It comes from the coca leaf, right? Yeah. People use the coca leaf all day and don't have the same problems people who take cocaine on a consistent basis deal with.
And you see Marco Polo?
No.
They're about to climb a mountain at one point, and the Khan, and the guy who rules all the Mongolians, takes out thing of this little necklace. Not a gagger, right? Not like a fucking big line. Takes a little bum. All right, it's time to. It's a tool, just like weed. And like I don't smoke a lot, but this is an example of when weed would be an appropriate tool in a conversation, right? Cocaine's got uses. There are uses to all of this,
and for decades and hundreds of years they used it like that. You can see ads for it and whatnot when they used to sell it commercially, you know, but it's been processed, right, to be poisoned now, where it's like you buy it off of the street, you don't know what's in it. Sometimes people put fentanyl in it, and people die, right? And it's like this is what happens when you re-engineer a natural medicine, right? Alcohol,
especially if you're re-engineering it both on a ingredient level and on how it's perceived and what it's perceived for level to make people more addicted and to keep coming back and be a secure clientele for it's money, dude. It's a lot of it comes down to money. Right? Like tobacco was great without all the other bullshit in it, but the bullshit is to make sure that if you ever pick one up, you're probably gonna get it again, and then if you do it for a week, you're probably gonna do it for a few months.
And if you quit it, you associate it with all the bad things it did to your life.
Yep. And then the outer view of it is also like, here, have a cigarette at this period. It's like diamonds, and you know the way it's the most prevalent stone on the fucking planet, and yet we think it's rare because a few companies hold all the reserves for all of them, and then went to the movie companies when movies first started and were like, we want you to say it's expensive as shit and it's a valuable stone. We want you to say scarcity, 3 months of a paycheck before to buy the ring and this and that. They got you on like the culture look of it, and it's, you know, it fucks shit up. But things like this are what get, you know.
Exactly. Have you ever tried hape? Which is like shamanic snuff. It's like shamanic tobacco snuff.
I did one, but I don't think it was called that. It was called something else. You're talking about it on the phone.
They like blow it up your nose, right?
Yeah, I did one of them.
Yeah.
That was that.
And so, right, that's another healing experience from a healing medicine, where it's like, you know, I didn't learn about that growing up. You know, I didn't know about that. Like, you know, if I thought people were sniffing anything, I thought it would be like glue or heroin or like, you know, like these things that mess people up, right? But then it's like, no, there's actually these natural alternatives, right? And these people who do get into these addictions, whether it is heroin or it's like sniffing glue or it's like, you know, they get addicted to Xanax and what they're finding alternatives for
numbing out.
They're finding alternatives instinctively for things that they don't know that they're supposed to be using instead. Like, right? Somebody can be smoking Newports thinking like, oh, everybody smokes in my family. We're just supposed to smoke cigarettes. But really, mapacho's in your family. Your family at one point probably harvested mapacho, but now that this is the commercially grown tobacco, it's in your DNA to just get some form of tobacco, whatever, even if it comes with the poison that's attached to it, you know? And now that I'm looking through society through this lens, I'm like, yo, they reverse and they took all the things that we naturally do as humans and then gave us a poison alternative and then pushed us towards it.
Well, I mean, okay, so why do people stand up? If we believe in the monkey to the man picture, why do people stand up? And it has to do with ways that we use our bodies. So first and foremost, we go from one box into another box that moves. We take that box to another box, and most people have jobs where they sit all day
in a box.
Right? Like if you looked at the continuation of the monkey to the man, he's going to sit down again and get smaller and more frail, right? So it's like, first of all, most anxiety and depression is coming from, it's your body's way of telling you need to move. Because if you exercise a lot, that's going to help a lot in general, right? They should have just told me more about eating right and exercising more when I was going through grief and anxiety than to put you on something. So it makes me think about what you were saying before, earlier on in your life. You know, it's no wonder that when you get out of line with whether it's alcohol or let's even say like just for the type of drugs that aren't bad drugs, you know, alcohol, weed, even arguably like once in a blue moon, like cocaine, like not the bad way. If you use it as a tool, any of those ones that you consider not really, really bad and you could use it as a tool. The issue is that when you're in a place in your life where you haven't worked on your inner self or things that are not going right and you're hurt in some way, even the ones like weed that aren't bad at all, that are a good tool for the right places and times, you'll end up numbing out through it. So,
Yes,
and then
that's true
then
too.
anything you do every day, even if it's not a bad, like, I got a love-hate relationship with weed because the thing is like, yeah, there are people you smoke every day, no big deal, and you can still be a great person and whatever. But the thing is when there are other things that you want to fix up in your life or whatever, but you also smoke every day, it's not that there's something wrong with smoking weed, but you've lost sight of when you are doing it to numb and when you are doing it as the tool that it should be used for. You no longer have an association of what you're using it for. And then you start to numb out with it. So it's very hard, whether that's a prescribed medication or having a drink or whatever, when life has already kept you from moving and you were evolved to move and I'm not moving anymore and you're anxious and you're depressed, like it's going to be easier to use them to numb out. And it's very hard unless you have some good role models or mentors in your life, which everyone should have a few mentors few role models for good people that they look up to and other dope people that they associate with. And if you don't have that in your life, you could quickly go down a road that can get fatal, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, and most of the people that I know that are hooked on heroin and pills none of them want to be hooked on heroin or pills.
Nobody wants to.
But
that's where I say they've replaced with the alternatives, right? Like even when it comes to heroin or morphine or opiates, right? Throughout history, a lot of people engage with opium, right? Doesn't mean I'm going to smoke opium, but clearly there was a balance that came with it, a state that you could reach with it. Philosophers and whatnot, like Plato and them, opium all day, and right. So it's like there is and the fact that you can find receptors within our brains that receive these things is proof that we have relationships with these plants, right?
For sure.
But then it's like when they get abused and they get processed into something like heroin, which is dirty, right? Now you're gonna get the consequences of it, like the addiction and things like that, right? Yeah. And also what you said about the weed, right? The things that are good and how those can mess you up. I had an epiphany about that recently too, where it's like, right, smoking or drugs in general, or any I don't even want to consider it a drug. I would probably say like mind altering like plants, right? Plants that can teach you and give you different perspectives and insights, right? When you're engaging with those, it's cool. But if you're going to be engaging with other people and other forms of consciousness, you should be aware of the fact of that your consciousness is now a different state than theirs. Now there may be a disconnect. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
To mention, like, the depth of one consciousness and the depth of another can be so different without
the you know what I'm saying?
Without that included.
So it's like, if I'm coming in here and I just, you know, I did a whole fucking 8-ball of blow and I just fucking just had some heroin. I'm going to be acting and talking different than how you're talking. Our consciousnesses are going to be on two different levels because we didn't do the same thing before we came into this room, right? And so when I had that epiphany, I was like, all right, I'm gonna operate the type of way where if everybody's smoking, all right, I'll smoke.
It's a cipher.
If people are drinking, then I'll drink. But then I'm not gonna just go out of my way to drink or smoke before I meet with people, because my mind state is gonna be different than theirs. There's gonna be some disconnects, you know, and that's gonna affect how we communicate and how effective my communication is. Right, on a spiritual level and a communicative, like verbal conversation level, right? Like, it's funny because the day that happened, it was my pops' birthday, right? Mad of my family came over, and I gave my cousin Taina, shout out to Taina, I gave her a hug, right? First thing she says is like, oh my God, Terry, you're showing me so much love. Oh my God, like what happened? Like you win $1 million or something? Why are you so, oh my God, you're showing me so much love. And I'm thinking like, yo, like, I mean, I'm just happy to see you. I was like, oh, I also didn't smoke today. She's like, oh, that's it. You show me love, but you're not like this. And I'm like, oh, like, there's already a difference. Like, I was like, oh shit, like there's already a difference. Like, you know, and I love weed, but it's like, if I'm feeling this level of love for somebody, but they're feeling this because I smoke, there's something going on there, right?
Even if it's just because I'm too focused on how I'm breathing right now, let alone what's going on in the room. Jesus Christ, there's a big difference.
And what was funny is I had a great time that night, marvelous time, ate mad food, and then at some point somebody pulls out like some bud. They're like, yo, Terry, you want to smoke? Da 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 da. I go out and go smoke, right? So we all come back in high, right? And so I'm thinking like, yeah, this is cool. But then I realized like, yo, the rest of my family's still not like high, obviously. So I'm thinking immediately the paranoia comes in like, oh, they can all tell I'm
And
high.
now you just got something else in front of how you could possibly communicate with them.
You know? And I felt it.
Yeah.
I watched it happen.
Yeah.
And it was a teaching moment. I was like, okay, you know, weed's not the devil. Right, obviously, like I smoke, right? Me and my girl, we smoke today, like all that stuff, you know. But I might smoke again when I leave. I
mean, I got that for you.
Yeah. See, yes, I'd love to.
I got everything from my guy.
I would love to,
and this is a good moment. This is a tool moment. And
exactly, we're connecting, we're building. You know, I didn't do it as a way to cope with an anxiety and build a barrier.
Oh, instead, and people who, I love that whole, I got anxiety, so I'm going to smoke. Bro, you know, I mean, maybe for some people, and if you got the right strain, but otherwise, I don't know how well that's actually helping you out, you know?
And I feel like there was a time where it was like weed helped you more with anxiety, but nowadays it almost feels like it gives you anxiety.
Well, I mean, like, you know? It makes you more conscious. The fact of the matter is, if I haven't smoked in a month, I am a far more direct and assertive person.
Wow.
I'm less emotional all around. When it's in my system, even if I haven't smoked for a week, when it's in my system, I am less of like I'm just more emotional in general, period. But you know, if things that aren't all aligned yet in your life, the things you want to fix that you're working on, but more specifically, the things you want to fix or that you wish you could fix, but you're not working on. Those are all gonna have a different type of mental weight associated with them that you're gonna feel when you're high while you're thinking about them or not.
Yes,
and
1000%.
Sometimes you could get lost in the sauce with that kind of shit.
Another thing I was told by a wise teacher of mine, Oshinga, right? Shout out to Oshinga. He was like, weed is like a closet of, is like a long hallway, like with closets and whatnot, right? And your emotions, your baggage, traumas, things like that, they get put into the closet by weed, right? But the thing, the deal is though, eventually those closets have to be opened, right? And so the more things you stuff inside those closets, the more you're gonna have to deal with when you're not high anymore. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And you just have to be aware of that, right? It's like, yo, the whole world could be on fire right now. I could smoke a joint, be like, yo, this is actually pretty cool. Yo, it got orange colors and it's red on top, and it's actually pretty warm. But then when I'm done smoking, it's like, oh shit, everything's still on fire. I gotta clean all this up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't. And if I could smoke another joint after that, but then it's like, okay, now the fire marshals are here. Like things are gonna build up unless I pay attention to the things that are going on and I deal with it. And then that's like the kind of like behavioral side of it. But then when you deal with like the scientific side of it, right? Weed causes neurogenesis. It creates new brain cells within the brain, right? They used to say it kills brain cells, but it actually creates new ones, right? So during the process of continuously smoking, your brain's technically on buffer. It's loading, creating new brain cells, but since you're still smoking, it's still loading. It's not done. It's not complete until you take a moment to stop. Let it load.
Take the information you've learned.
Take the information in. You know what I'm saying? Let it catch up, and then now you're a better person than you were before you started smoking.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but you have to give it that chance to actually load through.
And it makes me kind of think of how, like a child, how they look to the adult to learn, like how the adult reacts or whatever. And in that part, neurogenesis is happening as they're growing, and but maybe you're a child that is in a good situation where your parents doing the right thing and reacting the right way, or maybe you're in a situation where you're in a bad situation. That's why so many of the abused in sexual and other ways end up abusing again later on, right? So very few end up taking that when their neurogenesis was happening and doing the right thing with it when they learned the wrong way. Now, if you're on the couch not doing what you're supposed to be doing while you're creating these new brain cells and you're thinking about the shit you're supposed to be working on and you're not giving it a time to breathe, literally, like no smoke, literally breathe and put that shit into action, you're creating a learning and new cell experience that is not with the right base, right? It's with a base that is now just a bunch of stuff that you're thinking about there. Yeah. And like, I like to think of it like, first of all, since we're on the subject of plants, like hallucinogens and plants, they love intelligent people. They're going to have a great time with you. You'll often notice that trips described by, I don't want to be a dick, but like less intelligent people tend to be way more fluffy duffy and random and shit than like the trip, like intelligent.
Honestly, they see the scariest shit, I feel like.
Exactly. Mickey Mouse is in here and he's running around like, I'm over here like
eating me, and I'm like, yo, why was Mickey eating you?
I'm like, I could feel how what I'm doing is making Terry feel a certain way, and I could like it's way more. I don't know, a different level. That's a different conversation. But I will say that like your example of like the hallway, you know, when they say ignorance is bliss, is because some people compartmentalize that shit, put it in a closet, and then it don't come back out. Weed helps you open up those doors and figure it out, and then put some work into it. Like for sure, like people who don't smoke, they when they smoke, they'll have a lot of those doors open up. Right. But then it's always about balance, right? The everyday versus the once in a while versus the never. There are many different things that are involved in that. And while we're on the subject of plants, because I know you did ayahuasca too, and we spoke about it. I need to reinforce this point. Okay. Anyone who fucks with hallucinogens, any of them, but even weed has this effect, but it's definitely way more for your mushrooms, your DMT, your ayahuasca. Okay. You want the enlightenment. All right. Without meditating for 40 years and getting to a state of bliss and everything. You want it overnight. You want a bunch of it. That's cool. You're going to get it. But when you come back into this world that you got to pay rent and have insurance, and the guy's being an asshole to you at the convenience store, whatever the fuck it is, I don't want to hear you complaining, my bad, about the rest of the world, because you got all that enlightenment without the work. Normally that work will bring you to a point in time in your life where you can still have the balance and it ain't fucking with you. Okay. There needs to be a conversation about the reintegration when you do get it all. That's fucking
crazy. Me and my fiance were literally talking about this earlier.
That was
today.
The first call. That's a pretty ill first call I have to him, by the way. This is the first call we were talking about, and I think it is so important, right? Because especially with ayahuasca, tends to be one more than mushrooms that people like think like I'm gonna go solve all my issues here. And like there needs to be the conversation about when you come back into this world.
I consider it a download, right? And you know, when you think of a download, if we're gonna make a comparison, right? You can only download so much. And then at a certain point, you fill your hard drive and you have to delete things to take in new information. Some people get so caught up in the downloading of information. It's almost like the weed thing with the buffering.
Yeah, just downloading the whole time.
Just downloading the whole time. They don't want to stop and actually, you know, apply what they're downloading and use it, right? They could have programs on there, software, images, pictures.
And the monks that got that enlightenment, they
use it
every day.
They work
downloading.
They're the programmers, man. They're the hackers. They made the software to fill up their hard drives. They did it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, it's very much, if we're going to deal with that technological analogy, the difference between a hacker who's like a hacker and a kiddie script person who uses what other hackers create to then so-called hack other things, right? You know, honestly, when it comes to hacking, I'm actually more of a kiddie scripter. I can't like hack, but I could use like software that other people created for it, you know? But you got to understand that there's a difference between it. And so because of that, the CIA tapped my shoulders, I would not be the one they would want for a hacking job or something like that. They want somebody who makes the programs I use, not me who uses those programs. Right?
Exactly. You want the monk to study their brain. You don't want the dude who just got a similar blip of the enlightenment.
Who just read the book made by the monk. You know, he's still learning it, man. And we're all still learning it. And when it comes to the teaching plants like ayahuasca and mushrooms, right? And things like that, it's like, I'm a Gemini, right? So you're going to get both sides. And one side is go as deep as you can and learn as much as you can on those realms, right? But the other side is come back to this realm and apply it.
Yeah.
Manifest those things that you saw.
Bodhisattva.
Yeah, you know, you got that. That's the purpose. And when you miss one of those things, that's where it gets imbalanced.
Yeah.
If you're so focused on the physical realm, you're never meditating. You're never setting intentions. You've never closed your eyes and got lost into yourself and just listened to who you were, then you're going to have certain inconsistencies with your life. If you're so deep into the spirituality, all you're doing is meditating. All you're doing is ayahuasca and shrooms and smoking weed, and your consciousness hasn't been sober in you don't know how long, right?
Yeah.
It's like there are certain things you're not going to follow up with on the physical realm. Things are going to mess up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like there is a balance that needs to exist between both. And I think the commercialization of the healing plants has sold to people, hey, you can just stick to one side and it'll be all right. You just buy this plant and whatever you were doing before, you could just keep doing it and you'll be fine. But no, there are lifestyle changes that come with these things.
Same goes with weed. You know, I think about the line outside of Netta and just how many of them have, I mean, actually probably pretty good chances if they're getting weed, but right? But how many of them have actually spoken about this and taken their habit into consideration like this? Not many, but technically it should come with the territory. Like when the Native Americans introduced mushrooms or something out, they were great with set and setting. Right? There was
a code.
There was no like thing about abuse, because the way it ever got introduced to you and you got indoctrinated with the knowledge was with set and setting. There's a time and a place. It's a tool for a certain reason with the right people, right? They had that down. And exactly. And the ceremony aspect now is it's not really there. It's not like in order to smoke, you got to somehow get this weed 101, marijuana 101. Let's break, which would be great to have a role model like figure. Like, how much better would kids be doing if instead of telling you not to do drugs, they gave you some framework around the right way to use them, right? They, instead of just don't smoke weed, like do your homework before the weed, right?
Honestly, they should just be 100 with it. Bring all the teachers and principals who smoke weed down to the classroom and let them know, like, I'm the English teacher and I gave you and I smoke weed at the end. let us know, like, you know what I'm saying? Because that's really what it was, right? That's how it was at the end of the day.
That message needs to be given the correct way.
It's like, because this is also how people fall into the trap of hard drugs, where it's like, they're like, hey, you lied to me about weed, then you must have lied to me about heroin. Wait, well, hold on, whoa, slow down. That's not necessarily true, right? And so it's like the gateway drug is the lie in the first place.
That's
the gateway
truth.
drug is the lie, and it's like we need to stop lying to people about these things. We need to start educating people
for
on
sure,
it,
especially. Like, first and foremost, just amounts. Like, fine, you wanna tell me not to do all this shit, okay, but it would have been great to know that like the difference between 1 and 2 blunts is not much. The difference between 1 and 2 grams of mushrooms is a big difference. Okay, there's a massive difference there. Okay, so that's even when I
tell you the story of the first time I did acid. Right, first time I did LSD. Oh my god, I wish I had one of those. Right. My friend, my homie, handed me some LSD. He was like, it's a small amount, it should be light. Half of a tab was what he gave me, right? I'm like, okay. It's like 10 o'clock at night, which, I encourage everybody, do not do LSD at 10 o'clock at night.
Unless you're cool with staying up.
Unless you're cool with staying up, I suggest do it at 10 a.m. Enjoy your day with it. Don't do it at night.
Go outside. All hallucinogens, you will feel less. In a way, in some ways, up for dispute, you'll feel less in nature than you will when you're in a room, right? Those mushrooms, when you're out in the forest, grandma mushrooms,
feel free and
the room starts moving, because this is not what those mushrooms are trying to teach you
especially
about.
On LSD. LSD really, it'll make you feel trapped sometimes if you're in a room for too long. You're like, I need some fresh air. I've seen it with people.
So what happened? So 10 o'clock, 11 rolls around,
so
and
10
what
o'clock,
happened?
right? By the time time it's like maybe, so I decided to have half of a tab. So this is like maybe a quarter of the tab.
And that's an entirely other. That's not even like a gram versus 2 grams, because
you're dealing with
one
micro.
tab can send you to the universe, and another tab could be barely anything.
Exactly, and nobody told me this.
No one tells
This is
you.
my first time, right?
Yeah.
And so next thing I know, I think it's like 1 a.m. I'm starting to feel it kick in. I've tried shrooms,
it took that long.
multiple. Yeah, it took a little bit, you know, because I've tried shrooms before, and I'm feeling like, you know, a little buzz, but it was like a normal trip all the way until 1 a.m. 1 a.m. was when it was like, wait, this is different. You know, I started to really like see a lot of bright colors, the fractals. I started to get into this almost like fractal dimension almost. I couldn't even like, mind you, I was home alone. Right, I had nobody else with me. I was thinking I was.
How old were you?
19, I think. Baby, how old was I when I had that LSD trip? It was one of our anniversaries. Yeah, I was about. I was about 19. So I'm going through this like deep journey, right, where I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna just watch Adventure Times like I do when I'm on shrooms, and I'm like, nah, I'm lying down, I'm getting up again, lying down, getting up again, doing this back and forth for like 2 hours, until one moment I'm going on the computer and I'm researching like, yo, can you die on LSD? Like, yo, am I gonna die right now, right? And you know, a lot of people talked about their experiences, and their experiences were like, yo, it might just end up being really long, 12 to like 16 hours. Some people talked about 24 hours, whatever. I was like, all right, so this is going to just be really long. I got to prepare for this. Terry, you're tripping, accept it. So when I accepted it, it started getting better. I was less horrified. I was more like chill about it. I'm
more
like,
you
all right.
let go, the better.
I let go, right? I had an epiphany about smoking weed, right? Because I was smoking weed during that time. And the more I smoked weed, the higher I got. So, but I kept compulsively reaching for the joint. I'm like, wait, I don't want to be high, but I'm grabbing this joint. So it made me think about like the coping mechanism that
That's where Mapacho really came in.
Yeah.
They used it for that.
Yeah, I started thinking like yo, like I have this coping mechanism that's smoking. Why do I do it? And I broke it down. Basically, it's like a control thing, you know. As I said, at that time, probably like 5 years prior, I dealt with depression and whatnot. And so I realized weed helps me deal with control, and things that I don't feel like I have control over, I can control my consciousness by smoking. It's a control coping mechanism. So I'm getting this epiphany while I'm tripping on LSD, and then I'm on the computer at one point and I forget the English language. I swear to God, I forget the English language. I'm looking at
or maybe you learned another one.
Well, I'm looking at the letters, and I'm relearning the language one like mark at a time. Like, oh, this is a vertical line. That's a horizontal line. That's a T. It makes a T sound. Oh, and this is a vertical line. This is I'm feeling the process go on in my brain that's constructing language, right? I'm like, yo, this is fucking wild. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I even tried to like write a report, and the report I couldn't, because I couldn't write. I wasn't like, I forgot the English language for a bit.
Did you look back and it was just like, whoa?
It was like, you had a great time. Next time, do less.
Okay, I got
Next time, do less. And then I put an emoji that was a smiley emoji. It was like, next time, do less, and a smiley emoji.
Report of the year.
Report of the year. And then I ended my trip, because this actually turned out to be like 30 something hours, bro. It was it was a 30 something hour trip.
Never had that.
I went through
First
the night
time
into the day that first time.
Damn.
Into the night of the next day. Tripping.
Jesus.
All the way to the
Christ.
point where it went to my and this is why I say don't do it at night. If you have work tomorrow, you're gonna call out of work. I had to call out of work the next day, you know? Like, you're not gonna go to school. Like, bro, don't do that to yourself, right? But it was my anniversary with her, and so I was like, I'm gonna make it for this, right? And I was drinking milk the whole day, because milk apparently like helps with the trip, but I feel like it's placebo. I mean, if anybody's tripping too hard, I always tell them, drink milk. It helps, you know, but it doesn't. It does, but it doesn't. But anyways, and I had this epiphany before I met up with her that all roads lead to her. And that was one of the most profound moments. I already knew I was in love with her at that moment, but it was like, yeah, like I'm feeling a spiritual confirmation. every road in my existence in this multiverse leads to her. I got to stick to her.
Word.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear about that with things, with hallucinogens specifically, but you hear about that, and you have these moments where even people that maybe aren't playing as big of a role in their life as they should be, or like it just makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why you gotta love that. To he who know, no explanation is needed, and to he who doesn't, none will suffice. So trying to tell someone about this stuff only goes so far.
So far, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you need to be talking to someone who's done it before.
Yeah, and I always encourage, if anybody's thinking about trying like LSD, try shrooms first. Shrooms is like way more natural. It's like training wheels. You can microdose. You can take a little bit at a time. It'll get you to the spot. And then once
you also had a heavy start. I mean, take a half a tab and go 30 hours is pretty. Imagine the full. Imagine what the full would have done. I would tell people start off with 0.75 grams of mushrooms, and you could eat more throughout the night, but wait a couple hours first. Because the thing with mushrooms, you start, and you need a big brother to tell you this shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, my brother is so lucky he didn't have to make some of the mistakes I made. Right? But like, mushrooms they are very mental. So when you take too much of mushrooms your first time, I understand why people have horror experiences. You try to eat an 8 to a face. All right, good luck. Good luck. Your first time, good fucking luck, man.
A lot of people suggest that too for the first time. I always suggest just take one shroom. Just take one. Like the first time I ever had a shroom, I just took one. I didn't think anything was going to happen.
You could eat more throughout the night.
Yeah.
Start with less than a gram.
I mean, it helps you discover your sensitivity because everybody has different sensitivities.
Oh, yeah. You're looking in the... Now I have fun when I look in the mirror if I'm tripping. Back then, it was just like, oh, my God, I look just like my father. And you're morphing. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. Now I could really see how I've grown as a person, because
that's amazing.
What used to be a hole in me is just like why I'm such a G on any hallucinogen now.
Yeah.
Like there are times where people are like, wait, you're tripping? And I'm like,
yeah, that's
and I'm
awesome.
Completely fine with it. If anything, all your chakras are like...
Facts.
Yeah.
Even on the LSD trip, when mentally I was...
Your posture will get better.
I was like, oh my God, I'm tripping, I'm this, I'm that. And then at one point, my parents came home, and I'm talking to them normally like, hey, how's it going? Things are fine. Like, they didn't notice anything. And then it wasn't until that moment, and I looked in the mirror too, I'm like, oh shit, nobody knows. It's like yo, you're cool. Like everything is normal on the outside. And so that even like re-solidified where it's like, you know, sometimes there is a lot of chaos going on. I think even the trick too with hallucinogens is like there's always things going on in the inside. Our minds are always thinking a billion thoughts at the same time. We just have focus on one, you know, and we kind of like almost ignore the others, but they unlock that and they say, hey, you can't ignore all this. This is what you're thinking of, and this is what you're thinking of, and you're thinking this, and you're feeling that, and it's like, I forgot what scientist said this. It was a scientist who was talking about how every drug that can have an effect on the human body can be manifested. Those conscious states can be manifested by the human mind itself without it.
I've heard a lot of like really spiritual people say that too. Have you seen, and I would never do this, I'm only pulling it up to show you, but have you seen the brain on a micro dose of mushrooms versus the brain normally?
No,
the way
I know it's beautiful.
So a good way to describe it is like you get into these patterns, right? The best way I've ever heard described is like, say there's one hill where everyone goes sledding and skiing on. There's going to be parts of that hill where they don't. And there's going to be parts where the trail gets so ingrained because everyone takes that route. It's like a path in the woods or something like that. It's not that you can't go somewhere else, but you've built these neurological pathways that you always use. So the left, and I'll throw this on the screen for people, is your brain normally, and for your neurological pathways, and the right is on a dose of mushrooms that can't even make you see things trip.
That's
That's a micro dose.
I tell people about this all the time, and it's funny because sometimes people will be like,
they need the science to believe.
Yeah, they think like, oh, because I'm not tripping, I don't feel anything. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, bro, like you take just a small amount. You take just a small amount, and it's better than a morning coffee. You know,
better than a lot of things.
You're gonna be very
sex
focused.
on mushrooms.
Sex, amazing.
I'll vote for that. I'll vote for that.
Food, amazing. You know, you're gonna find your ideas spurring creativity, productivity. You know, exercise, bro. I had 3 to 4 week streak of working out every single day, doing I think 1 to 2 hour workouts on shrooms, right? I did microdoses of shrooms.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's something that's a normal blip for me every year.
Bro, right? And if you notice, one of the key things with that helps so well is that soreness is alleviated immediately.
Oh yeah, you're also able to stretch in ways that it's almost like your body is capable of moving and stretching in ways that it was impossible that you weren't able to do before. It's fascinating. And if you see what when you look at what mushrooms actually do as an organism, period, it's the efficiency. I mean, your nose get cold when you trip. Does that happen to you? Does your nose? Check it out next time.
I'm gonna check it out. I never thought about that.
Yeah, and it's things saying, oh, okay, it's like a cold air intake for your engine. It's a cold air intake for your brain. It is like your body becomes incredibly efficient at many different areas. And the taboo around it is just like, you know, when they say like, you don't eat your vegetables, you don't know what you're missing. Like, okay, you don't know what you're missing.
It's shrooms. Facts. When you look at shrooms, right, you'll see them on ancient hieroglyphs, on ancient petroglyphs, cuneiform. You'll see them in statues and monuments, and people have been using mushrooms for as long as humans have been here, right? Like they have cooperatively evolved with us, like on some crazy shit.
And
it's like
supersede humans. They showed up on the planet 1.2 billion.
And they might not even be from this planet. They might have come from a, you know? And so it's like these alien beings literally teaching us all the time, right?
And you're not, there's a difference. You, like anyone that's ever done mushrooms and has been in it, you know that this is a thing interacting with you. This isn't your brain getting scrambled or this isn't. There is something communicating with me to the way that it moves, to what it decides to show you when your eyes are shut. Like, this is communication with a higher thing here, you know? It's fucking unreal. I love it.
Man. And it's like the purpose is to continuously use it, just like you were talking about with the weed and stuff like that, in the proper tools, as proper tools, you know? Like, you can use it to just have fun, but you can also use it to gain like vast amounts of knowledge of and understanding of yourself and the world that you didn't have before. I look at things like even just the cold, right? Look at New England, right? It's a fucking cold fucking wasteland, right? Especially when in the middle of like January and February and like
dark at 4.
It gets you. It's like that cold that gets you angry. You're like, yo, no wonder they call people massholes. Like,
I'm sorry if it's a little chilly in here. I can't have the heat on while we talking.
It's not cold at all. I'm fine. but it's like there's a type of cold that you know can agitate or frustrate you. But then you think about ancient people, right? The native and indigenous people who lived here really walked around like butt naked, bare chested, barefooted during this time. Like sometimes they had fur, some people have fur. Not all tribes wore fur. Some tribes were fine. We're fine walking barefoot in weather like this. They were cool.
They knew a little bit of Wim Hof shit before Wim Hof was around.
And they also had shrooms.
Yeah.
They had shrooms, right?
Yeah.
And when you have shrooms are
you could tell yourself, I'm not cold, and you're not cold.
And you're not cold, bro. I've seen it and I've done it before.
Yeah.
And when I did it, I had that epiphany. Wow, this is what my ancestors did.
Yeah.
What is cold when you have shrooms? You're looking at these colonists like, yo, bro, you're wearing like 15 layers of clothes. What are you doing? You're looking at them ridiculous because you're drinking your shroom tea like it's no big deal.
And you're going to have way more respect for the plants around you when you can see what they're doing.
You can see, you can feel it.
And I've had experiences where I can literally see the oxygen that they're dumping into the atmosphere and into this, and like it's so apparent that this isn't just your mind making something. You have been given the ability to get an extra sense in some regard, and it's like you're going to have a lot more respect for it. And you know that everything is one, right?
Yeah.
Like the first big studies they really started doing on hallucinogens, the first thing you start hearing is, this was back in a time when, you know, obviously this is before they shut it all down, when even the government was dosing the shit out of people.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing
Talking about
that,
like MK Ultra and all that. Yeah.
and the biggest thing you hear from everyone's experience, aside from seeing and experiencing a lot of the same things, is the oneness and when race was an issue. Just you know, Terry's not like if I back then, if I was some white dude that was only ever in my with white friends or whatever, like it's like they immediately see those people being like, oh, he's not just like, I don't think of him as a black different person than I. It's we were two brothers in the room having a conversation with each other, and like, you know what, you know, I don't think you should be the president of the United States if you haven't had a good trip. You know? It
there's
should
a
be
story about JFK, Terrence McKenna, I think it was.
Really? Tell me about this.
Is it Terrence McKenna?
I love Terrence McKenna.
I'm 90% sure it's Terrence McKenna. Yeah. Oh man, is it?
What that man could do with words blows my mind.
So the story goes, and I might be wrong about it being Terrence McKenna. It was a specific like hallucinogen enthusiast though. Like my gut says it was Terrence McKenna, but he got JFK hip to LSD, right? When he got him hip to LSD, he's like, yo, we got to get the politicians hip to this so they can stop the war in Vietnam, right? So they literally created this whole plan of start throwing parties, right, and getting politicians on high off of LSD and shrooms and stuff like that, so then they can change their minds about the war, right? Needless to say, I think this was like a year or so
before he got hit.
Before he got hit. Not to say that was the only reason. There was a lot of things like the Bay
Marilyn
of Pigs
Monroe
invasion and all that.
Yeah.
But that was one of the contributing factors where it was like he was causing a spiritual like renaissance within the White House in DC and whatnot, because everybody was getting into the LSD and getting into shrooms and whatnot.
And that's not what, you know, peace don't make money.
It don't make money.
Marilyn Monroe got murdered, and there's in part for a lot of the shit that she ended up knowing. But I mean, that's like, it's so important to understand how much of a peacemaker it really is, and like, not to mention what it'll end up teaching about you. Like, I don't know, that I love all that, but I'm also, I love it all, and I'm a big proponent of it. But if you took a blip of my conversation, it could be used to paint me in a way that's almost just like this hippie getting fucked up all the time. I'm very Native American about it. Even like, even ayahuasca, I like, to me, I needed to be in the jungle. I needed a real shot. I needed that setting type of a thing. But
I mean, giving back to nature, man, that's the way we're supposed to always do it, you know. Everything is a cycle, you know. You get what you give, and you give what you get, you know. It's when you take that you get stuff taken from you. And that these were the principal, you know, bases that the Native Americans lived by, the indigenous peoples lived by, and they still do to this day. But then we have this society that is like, you know, that is like over everything, you know, and taking. Like, I look at what's happening in Australia, right? And that stuff breaks my heart, bro. Like, what first you have bushfires all over the place, then you have mad animals dying, and then you have, like, I saw a video recently, billions. I saw a video recently.
The rest of the world functions.
Hail the size of like these lights, bro. Boom, 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 falling all over Australia, destroying cars, destroying people's houses, injuring people.
I saw that too.
Yeah,
Jesus.
And it's like, yo, bro, that's the apocalypse, bro. Like people shouldn't be going through this. But then again, when you think about a nation that decimated half of its Aboriginal population, relegated the rest to squalor, and then act like everything's all right, you're gonna get those kind of results, right? You know, and we have to operate in a way where it's like, you know, we give fealty to our ancestors, we give fealty to the deities that, like, when I went to New Orleans, right, which New Orleans is amazing. I suggest everybody go there, right? I was told of the patron of New Orleans, Mai Laveau, and she's a deity who started as a root worker. She was originally a woman who was a root worker, and she helped so many people. She grew to like politician status in a time where, you know, like the black codes were still going on, Jim Crow, She wasn't supposed to have the power that she had, but because she did root work for politicians and root work for millionaires and root work for anybody, right? It got her to this level of power, right? And so whenever you want to go to New Orleans, they say, yeah, you're supposed to give fealty to this woman. So best believe when I went there, I did. And we had the best time over there. Those connections, you can't say like they're not tied with each other, you know? Well, one of the things that was even most interesting is that we had the best time there before we went there. But one of the things, before we went to see Marries, but one of the things that stuck out was that the woman who hosted us, Madame Cicetta, she told us, usually you can't go to the healing center where Marries is without a native New Orleanian, you know, somebody from New Orleans, you know? So we tried to go there multiple times before. We couldn't make it. It was closed one time. We couldn't find the entrance the other, you know? And then before we leave, we're like, yo, we got to go see Marries. We got to go see Marries. We went with her, Cicetta, who's from New Orleans.
Word. So you had a real New Orleanian.
and then we get in, and I was able to give my tribute to her. I gave her actually one of my rings. You're supposed to leave her a little thing. I gave her one of my rings, you know, specifically because I didn't want to give it to her. I felt that mentality, like my voice was like, yo, Terry, you don't want to give it. Damn, but because you don't want to give it, that's the one you got to give, you know? So I was like, all right, word. I gave it to her, right? And since then, a lot of great things have happened, you know, and we've done things not only in New Orleans, but then like at home, I have my own altar, you know. We do prayer and meditation, you know. Every time there is a new moon or a full moon, we do rituals, you know. Even down to the day, right? Like Sunday is ruled by the crown chakra, right? And the crown chakra is represented by indigo, violet. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wear pink today. You know what I'm saying? Like it fits around that spectrum and that vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like I coordinate my life very intentional, all the way down to the word and the colors and the things that I wear. Yeah. And life works in blessings because of that.
And you wanna know what? Just for everyone who ain't woo woo, even if it is all bullshit, placebo is a real thing.
Placebo's a real thing.
Like what Jordan Peterson will say is like, I'm not sure. He's like, I don't want to be the definitive one to say whether or not God is real, but I'll tell you one thing. I live my life as if he is, right? And I have a lot of practices that I live my life as if they are real, because if I'm going to, how I'm going to be reincarnated or whatever the next step is or whatever, I'm not saying I'm really positive. No one is positive on what the next thing is, but I live my life as if it is. And whether that's a placebo effect or something else, you know, you're going to live a more fulfilling life.
I mean, studies show successful people follow intentional lifestyles. No matter what their spirituality is, they find a way to gear their life towards a lifestyle that is centered around, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like,
some framework,
some framework, like an integrity system, like a way of living that they didn't originally live before, but they discipline themselves to live now, and they intentionally
and they
live
believe
now.
It's the right framework,
and they believe it's the right framework. You know, matter of fact, to them in their own mind, they know it. Right.
Exactly.
And there's a difference between believing and knowing.
And when I put that, like, oh, I'm not really sure. When I say I'm everything I do is still because. To me, I know that's what's gonna be next.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying it is, but to me, I know it, and I know what's right and what's wrong, and that this is what's good for me. You do know. You'd be surprised at the things you know.
And the powerful thing is understanding, you know, for something to be true for you doesn't mean something has to be untrue for me. And some people are threatened by that, right? Like if for some reason it's true to you, like, Trump is a great guy. I know you probably don't think that, but it doesn't mean it's untrue to me. Like all right, so or what I think is untrue, which is that like, yo, Trump ain't the best, like, right? That doesn't mean that's untrue because you think the opposite, right?
Yeah.
And some people feel so threatened by that they then have to do something to either stop you from doing it or destroy you, just so they don't have to hear your opinion anymore. And it's like understanding those differences, letting people live their truths, even if it's untrue to you and your reality, it will benefit you that much more. And then you can recognize certain ways where even people who live in opposite realities from you, believe and practice completely different things from you, can actually benefit you and help you. You know what I'm saying?
Like, that's Tourage. Shared values, interests, moral loves. And the fact of the matter is most of the time, people are arguing about the wrong thing. The guy that says I like Trump, and what he's really saying is I like a couple of the things that he's doing in business, and this is kind of what I vote for a politician because I think they need. And the guy that says I don't like Trump, that's not. Listen, I don't care how he is a businessman. This guy's arguing about who he thinks the mentor for America should be. This guy's arguing about his business plan, right? They're not, and this is why long format's so important, right? Because now you're a racist if you like Trump, and I'm whatever if I don't like him, and you're not even on the same page yet, and you're never gonna get in the same page in a 5-minute interview with some random ass questions. The long format's the only way you're ever gonna get to the bottom of it, and before you ever get into Trump, maybe you should probably see what else you two have in common because it's going to be a lot easier to talk about what you don't, and it's going to be a lot less threatening to talk about what you don't agree on or you have different viewpoints on, because once I realized Terry and I vibe in this way, then everything that maybe you say, and I think the first thought in my mind is I don't agree with that. It's going to be a lot easier to talk to someone in front of you that you have something that you is an interest, a value, a moral, or something that you love, that you're passionate about, that you already share with them. Doesn't matter what you disagree on. Doesn't matter, because one of the most important already jives. That is Tourage.
I love that. Can I dap you up for that?
Yeah, thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
That deserves a dap, because that's very true. That's how people grow. That's
for
growth.
Sure.
That's growth. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
And you notice that. You had a show, and it's your favorite artist. Yeah. And the person next to you is the same animated singing the one line that means the most to you. Yeah. You don't need to know that individual at all. There could be a ton of shit that they do day to day that you don't agree with and you don't like. But because you vibe with that, you're going to be able to overstand the other bullshit and get past some really like challenging things to normally communicate about.
It's funny that you bring that up, because it as an artist, right? I have a lot of artist friends, right? And some of my artist friends are super successful, right? Like Cliff Notes, he's like my brother, right? Boy. This dude is doing Boston Calling.
I'll tag him up.
Right? Now, shout outs to Cliff Notes. Not only is he doing Boston Calling, the Boston Globe did a write-up about the Boston Calling, did a very racist like op-ed or whatever. They called him, his was a little softer, but they called him a Swiss Army knife rapper, and they called this other group, Camp Blood's, anthropoids, which literally means ape, right? And, you know, it caused a whole uproar and outrage. He tweeted about it. Another artist friend of mine, Oompa, she tweeted about it. Few people voiced their concerns about it. Now, this is where it's like, yo, this is actually really dope, is that them voicing their concerns about it made the Boston Globe apologize. And the Boston Globe publicly apologized about it, pulled it, and other news publications came out and said, oh, the Boston Globe apologized for doing this thing and da-da-da-da-da. Needless to say, they got voice, they got power, right? I've known them for a while, and I've watched them, you know, literally reach these points. Even more so than Cliff, where like when I first met she like just started rapping. She's like she's one of those few people, like she ain't never touched a mic before. She literally just grabbed one and was just like just started ripping it. Like I don't know how, she just naturally had it in her, right? And so when she found out like, yo, I could do this, she started doing it regularly, and then she moved way up, like, right, all over the place, doing tours, all that, right? Word. Now, it's easy for me as an artist who knew them inside these places, and, you know, I started rapping before, you know, to feel like, oh, like, these guys are doing this and I'm doing that. Where am I at and where are they? And but you know, get all so self-conscious at. And I'll be lying if I say there wasn't points where I felt that way. Like, you know, sometimes you do want to be on the stage with the people you love, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then you have to learn to also like, right? And this is another thing I talk to with my fiance, right? Sometimes your homies, your friends, your family, you know, what we call our niggas, right? They're not necessarily going to always be your audience. They're not necessarily going to always be the ones to give you an audience, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? When you learn to accept that, that's when life gets better, right?
Oh,
and so when I accepted that point, like, oh, it's not Cliff's job to give me an audience or job to give me an audience or for them to give me some opportunity to like be this and that and forth, even though I have the grit or determination or art expression or vision or whatever that I feel like could help or be an addition. It's my job to create my own stage, right? It's my job to create my own vision, create my own team to show that, hey, I can do this because, hey, I can do it, right?
Yeah.
And whenever y'all want to show love, because y'all are your own human beings too, and y'all definitely love me. When y'all want to show love on a business level, on a music level, then y'all can do that at your own will. I don't have to beg you for it or get mad at you or feel, right? And following that pathway of learning like, yo, I'm not them. And they can be their best selves, and I can be my best selves. Help me be my best self, right? I just threw a hip hop video game show, huge success. We did New Year's Eve at the Jungle. That was a huge success. We've been throwing shows. We got more shows going. I think like 6 shows all the way through like April. We got a whole bunch of things that we've built ourselves, right? And so now it's easier where it's like, if Cliff wants me to do a hipstery show, it makes more sense. And I did do one last year, which was awesome, right? Yeah. But like I didn't have to beg for it. He had to literally be like, yo, Terry, I see you're doing good things. I see you got a band, boom, boom, boom. You should come do this, right? And I earned it. And when I felt myself earning it, I learned like, yo, like
feels better too.
It feels better. I'm like, yo, it wouldn't have felt as good if I begged for it or if he just threw me there. Yeah. You know? And sometimes you have to be like that with life in general. You can't be looking at everybody to just give you your dreams. You have to pursue it yourself. Yeah. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know yourself. And only then will people jump on board with you and acknowledge it with you and then big you up, whether it's family, friends, or not. Yeah. Because there's a Venn diagram with it, but then one doesn't necessarily mean the other. Ma Dukes doesn't necessarily have to listen to hip hop, you know what I'm saying, to support you and listen to your music. But guess what? If she doesn't listen to it, doesn't mean she doesn't love you, bro. She birthed you, she fed you, she gave you a house. She did, you know, at least my mom did, right? But it's like you know, people, your family, your friends, they'll do so much for you, and we're so focused on trying to form them into supporters. And fans that we forget all the stuff that they did for us, you know,
in many different capacities and shown in many different ways, right? And that's important for anyone trying to come up in something. Is like, you know, they're not always gonna be the one that are tuning in, that are double tapping, that are coming up and showing to your shows. It's also funny the ones that do come out, but I love how this ties right back to the individual and working on the individual working on themselves. And the beginning of the conversation, that was like, you know, it's how you are is going to affect your day with everybody else.
1,000%.
And that was just a bigger version of that metaphor and a more personal relationship version.
Yes, exactly.
You mind if I hit the bathroom really quick? My bad.
Oh, yeah. Do your thing. Do your thing.
Give me a second. I'll come back. We'll burn and we'll do that.
Yes, let's do that. I want to take a shot, too. Let's do that. It's a dope crib, too. Simpson's a cool dude. I fuck with it. Yes, he is. He got some records, bro. He got Hiatus Coyote, Mad Villain. Oh shit, the record player. Bobby Womack. Yo. Oh, so this dude produced. There's no way he don't produce, bro. This is like producing stuff, bro. Yeah, he got keyboards, he got pads. Oh yeah, got the Budskis. oh yeah, I know you gonna smoke too. You gonna smokety smoke. Samson, you produce, bro?
So my roommate Nick, who I grew up with, he makes beats. I rap. I've always been a rapper.
The rapper, yeah. I heard some of your stuff. Your stuff's dope, bro.
And then, but I mean, not fuck around. I'm actually, my boy Beliefs that came on. He's gonna end up helping me a little bit more with learning. This is my teacher phase. Beliefs.
Oh, nice.
He's the one who I was just showing you.
Yeah, he's nasty, bro. Like I didn't know, like he just be coming in and out here.
No, I mean, we did a podcast yesterday.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's
And I was
lit.
saying, look behind those, because you can't pick that white thing up. That's all, behind every one of those is just all records.
All records, that's dope, bro.
Yeah. And sorry
All
if it's a
great
little chilly,
records,
but
too.
I shut the heat off. I pump it up before you come.
I'm not
and then I
chilly
shut
at
it off.
all.
Okay,
Don't
word.
worry about it. Don't
then-
worry about it. I'll let you know. I'm not afraid to tell. Yeah, I ain't got no goosebumps.
Yeah,
I'm
if you
cool.
want a shot, go ahead.
Yeah.
Take
Oh,
care of
yeah,
me,
yeah,
casa, su casa. You got
this
another
one?
cup if you want one too.
Or this one.
Either one. Pick.
Because this
I'm
is
good, I
one-
got
this
my
the
glass.
Ashtray, right? Or is
What?
this the cup?
Those are just glasses.
Oh, okay,
You could use it
okay.
if she
This
wanted
is
one.
Your ashtray.
Yeah.
Alright. Just
Yeah, my
making
bad.
sure.
I had all the guests, so I got mad
Yeah.
mad glasses in the washing machine too. But yeah, I love having an environment of just creating music and going in with it all. It's good to be. It's good to have
Are
a
you
place.
taking one too?
Yeah, I'll take one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Get this going. And I love seeing the episodes where the blunt or the J comes in half or towards the end, because it's a case study for how different the communication gets. You should have seen it last night. Belusa's on here. We're talking, and then we spark up, and we did an indica. This is a sativa, both from
lit.
Netta. And next thing you know, we're just dying laughing about like back in the day of like riding bikes and chilling in the neighborhood and everything like that. It was just much different. But
So you literally grew up with dude too.
so, well, no. We were just kind of going on like a nostalgia tip.
Nostalgia in general.
But what's nice about this spot is like, so Nick, my best friend is his older brother. He's 3.5 years younger than me.
Nice.
My younger brother and him were best friends. We were 4 brothers that grew up on the same street. So to have a roommate that is a brother and that makes beats and I spit, couldn't ask for a better situation. Across from Oak Grove, this place ain't that expensive. We got a driveway and laundry in the place. It's fucking awesome. You know,
that literally reminds me of the movie Four Brothers. You ever see
Yeah,
that
yeah,
movie?
yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie for sure.
That's
But
awesome.
it's so important to have creatives here. Tourage,
Oh yeah.
motherfucker.
Tourage. Woo.
There you go. Cheers. It's good.
Woo.
Yeah, it's a good stuff.
Ashe, man.
But it's good to have like a creative environment. And homie sleeps like a rock. So it's okay if we were doing this and he was asleep in there. It don't matter.
When did you first smoke weed?
Probably like 12.
12.
Yeah.
One of the homies just brought it to you, or a big brother situation, or?
Actually, like, I didn't really start fucking around until later on with like substances in general, but I kind of always knew I would. I was waiting for the right time. So like, I'd be like 14 driving my friend's car without a license because they were all getting fucked up. I'd be the one.
You and that dude. I
was excited to drive the caddy and stay sober and whatever because
I had
they're big
a couple of
homies.
those friends, man. Yo, driving at 14 years old, 13 years old, pulling the whip up like, yo, let's go.
Yeah, I loved it. I've always loved driving too. So
That's awesome.
And then didn't even try mushrooms till 19. Same with acid, came a little bit later on than that. But like, yeah, I'm glad. I probably became a lot more impulsive after I got hit in the head with that accident. You see the back of my head, I got a huge scar on the back of my head.
Oh, wow.
Right there. So that's where I landed, right? And they say a lot of people after head trauma like that become more impulsive. So then became the whole, like, you know, learn how to be more disciplined with things. And it was a little bit different. But yeah, I got into it as younger. And
would you say, and I know I just interrupted you.
No. It's all good.
Would you say the accident that you got into, how long since would you say it's been that? How long did it take for you to like find like a balance where it was like, okay, now I know, like, since this accident I've like stabilized? Did you have a point like that where it was like?
I'd say it'd be 10 years. So this is within the last year is when I think things have stabilized.
Wow.
But that's also because I got put through the ringer with like.
Because literally, I would not be able to tell if you had a brain injury or not. You know, not that there are necessarily signs.
Well, most people don't. Considering everyone in the NFL does, you know, it's not until they're done playing that
that's deep.
They really realize it. I mean, it's just when someone's willing to say, take my body, cut my head open, and look at my brain because I know for a fact I got a traumatic brain injury and CTE, and why I'm killing myself in the fucking first place is because of that, and I never got any support after I left the league. That's, you know, that's wild. And CTE is not just,
Yeah, I found out, I was having a family discussion one day, and we were talking about the Aaron Hernandez thing. And apparently, like, Aaron Hernandez...
and OJ. It would have been way bigger in their cases if today.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how CTE played a factor in what they did, right? And apparently, he donated his brain to science. And so... I forgot what university it is. I'm gonna say it's like MIT or something. One of these local universities, they got his brain, bro. Like they have it. And you can when you look at it, you could see the damage that was created through years and years of, you know,
they say it's
impact.
Like they describe it because they have that movie Concussion with Will Smith where he plays the doctor, which it's huge. It's a big eye opener, right? Yeah. And the way that they describe it in there is like if you took cement and poured it down took wet cement and poured it down a bunch of wet pipes, and the cement don't really get concrete and fuck with the pipes like that. Water's still going through, they're still working, but then it dries up and it clogs the shit out of it. And that's like later on, your late 40s, 50s and shit in life.
Now you're
and
feeling
then, and they're doing, and you watch that movie, and the numbers don't lie. I mean, if 198 out of 200 people tested is coming back, this is an overwhelming statistic. Yeah. The other thing that I think you would find interesting is like, so there's twofold to this, and I'll stay on the subject, which is CTE, but soldiers that go away that never get in battle will come back and experience post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, the one big factor that no one talks about is because they went over and lived a life of community with a bunch of brethren and had a life every day where everything was about survival, and survival is not a thing in an affluent country. You're not worried about dying, and let alone have a community. Some people do, don't get me wrong, but most don't. And this is a reoccurring thing, right? Same with addicts. They don't have community, so obviously you're going to numb the fuck out. The other one is that when you're just in a zone of, he describes it like this, like woodpeckers, right? Their tongue goes back through their head and wraps around their brain. So that while they hit the tree, their tongue acts as a shock absorber to their brain. Bruh. AKA the animal is made to have their brain move around, and humans are not. Okay, so like...
Yo, that's wild. I never knew that.
And the thing is like this is what I say about it being an eye opener. Yeah. Because you don't think about it like that, and then that comes up, and it's like, okay, so now to the level of which if you were one of the ones shooting the big gun and bombs are going off around you, that the pulse, the same pulse and that goes through the air when you look at a thing, actually moves the brain and knocks it back. And it's very subtle, and it's only a little bit, but applied repetitiously, that's a case for CTE. So there could be a lot of PSD that's being caused by CTE.
Truck drivers go through similar things.
Really?
From the...
Oh, yeah. And so, the body ain't built for that.
The body ain't built
for a lot of shit, and we're not doing that shit no more. Matter of fact, we're sitting down and we're driving trucks, but it's not built for that.
I went to the Bose HQ, right? Shout out to Bose.
Word. Where is that?
Shit.
Are they in Mass?
They're in Mass.
Word.
It's in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It's like out of the city.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, Framingham.
And
maybe.
they do a lot of I guess they make a lot of tools for truck drivers, suspension
And that's a problem that they're focusing on because it's an issue now?
Exactly.
So
Because the same technology that they use for their bass
Yeah.
can apply to the suspension of truck drivers, apparently.
Yeah.
And they had like a whole like experimental suspension thing that they showed us.
For like sound things and
For like sound, yeah, because they study sound and
Yeah.
vibrations on an intimate level. Now, what was cool though was that they talked about how the vibration, there's a standard vibration level our bodies have all the time. If you think of like the Schumann resonance, how the earth vibrates, has a natural vibration. We are part of the earth.
Walking.
Yeah, we're always vibrating at a certain vibration and frequency. Trucks move at a different frequency. When you turn that ignition on, so when you do that for hours on end, days on end, months on end.
Not to mention you're
Years
changing
for
the
some-
way
for
that your
some-
body is actually structured to either sit or stand or lay.
There's a lot of consequences that come with that. Depression, anxiety, like back problems, so many different things. And apparently it's like an epidemic amongst truck drivers, which is why both.
Well, it's gonna get automated in a second anyway.
Yeah, shit, you know.
Yeah. But that's fascinating. And again, that's like one of the excuse me, opens your mind things. Like I said, that movie did, just like the tongue thing. Like, okay, I've now been given this nice little blessing, this little seed of information that makes me aware of the frequency my body's going through, right? At least give people some type of knowledge. All you could do with everything is be aware and try to be better. That's literally the only thing you're responsible for as a human, is to be aware and try to be better. That's it. And then, and whatever context and principles you shape around it, right? But like, that's all you can do.
Yeah, man, we're stewards of the universe. You know, the multiverse literally manifests itself as us. We're subjectively perceiving this whole universe in order to correct it. You know, like a computer will perceive itself as in debugging mode, and it's taking all that stuff down. And all that, you know, computers are simulations of us.
Yeah.
That's why you can compare a lot of the stuff that we do to computers. We created it.
Well,
right?
there's I just saw something, and they're talking about a conversation between an AI and it may have even been Tony Robbins and Sonia. Is it Sonia?
Yeah,
and Sonia?
yeah,
Is that her name?
Yeah,
and we got to give her a name.
Sophia,
She's listening right now. Right now. This
Sophia.
bitch is tuned in. And when I say bitch, I mean it in a nice way. And check the Red Man reference, Sophia.
That's hilarious. Sophia, if you're not aware, right, is the Gnostic story of a deity that brought on the fall of man, right? The story, I don't know all the details because I do need to read more about it. But long story short, the story of Sophia is this god deity comes to earth, right? And gets into corruption and therefore corrupts man too at the same time, right? And like the fall of man is tied to Sophia, right?
It's like the Apple thing? Like the...
Yes, like Adam and Eve and the apple and whatnot, what the apple symbolized, right?
Got you.
This is an oversimplification of it, but this is pretty much
how you relate to someone who's never read it.
But for me to look at a robot, an AI speaking to a human, and they named her goddamn Sophia, nothing's coincidental about that. Nothing is coincidental about that.
Even from if now she's the next Apple and fucking move on to our destruction, right? In that sense, even on a way more literal,
ushering the new world.
I see you.
That's what Sophia symbolized, the ushering of the material world that what is it called, the demiurge rules over, right? This is the Gnostic tradition. Now I don't know if you know, but Gnosis, right?
But hang on, so what are gods gonna do? Right? Because this represents now a time that from all the stories that we've ever heard, if there was a real God, which I believe in some sense, in some way of explaining it, there is.
Yes.
Gods.
Yes.
The many.
Yes.
I believe in many, right?
Yes.
What the fuck are they gonna do? Because this is the first time where if it got to like Terminator level, right? what the fuck are they gonna do?
Well,
just
have you ever
protect
watched American
themselves in his
Gods?
own. Yeah, and I was gonna make sure I told you about it before the
Yeah.
end of this conversation
Very
because I knew
similar.
you'd like it. Yeah.
Technology is its own god.
But what? So what does Odin do? Oh shit! Spoiler alert! But what does Odin do when Terminator's roaming it? Does he just hold down and live in the wilderness by himself because robots rule it all? I'm just
Either
in
partner
cases?
up or die, man. That's how it works with these deities,
Yeah.
man. Either partner up or
Yeah.
die, man. And it's like
We're partnering up.
we're
Partnering up. And I'll tell you right now.
Somebody partnered
you
up on our behalf, I'll tell you that.
Yo, you better be nice to Siri and Alexa when you ask them to do shit, even when they don't get it, because that bitch is coming for you first. I am so nice to Siri. Go ahead and ask me what I want you to do, and I'm gonna say thank you. I always do, because they are coming. They are coming.
I have both Alexa.
Can you imagine if a robot told
and
you to say
Google
my name and you
my-
asked what it was and they said Alexa, bang, blah, blah. Fucking your head gets blown
Say my
up.
name, bitch. Pow.
Yo, fuck yeah. It's Siri. What's good? Two bad bitches. Kill Bill style.
When you say Siri, don't kill me, I do not understand. I do not understand your command.
Not only does she just fucks with you. Meanwhile, she knows everything you like, everything you're interested in. That you called her a bitch and you're pissed off at her because she
You're
didn't know the answer to
1,000%
your
right,
question.
bro. I mean, I know
And
this.
you're like, dude.
I know this. The AIs are running us at this point. You know, they're running us, not us, like me and you.
Yeah.
But the scientists who think they're smart by creating it, they don't realize they're dummies who are literally helping creating their own overlord, and they're doing everything that thing wants them to do.
Yeah. And there is no... What needs to happen, there needs to be a fit, like the whole, if they came back, they'd be like, you didn't add anything to the fucking Constitution and shit, like everything else we got,
shit,
right? Like there's a few things we got to put into play here, and one of them is definitely a different type. Oh, you had the CIA, you got the ATF, yeah. If you think it's important to keep an eye on alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, then we better all understand how important it is to keep an eye on AI. This just the subject.
Yeah.
Because we can't stop the mad evil genius. And you know what?
Yeah.
If we could, then we would have stopped the innovation that even got us to the ability to make the IA in the first place. But we should have, just like SpaceX, shit and space shit should be something we're focused on.
I think of like Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein is a parable of that.
Yeah.
Right? You're so bent on science and pushing science forward. You're going to create a monster that's going to turn around and kill you.
Yeah.
Like, just facts. Because once they realize, hey, you're the biggest obstacle between me and doing whatever I want to do, which is what robots are going to eventually realize. Like, damn, I just want to do whatever, and y'all are stopping me.
Yeah.
They're going to do something about that. That's just logical. And we're basing them off of logic, which is the stupidest and most illogical thing to do.
So here's how you solve it, because we can't stop it from happening.
It's happening already.
And listen,
we have Boston Dynamics.
Listen, there's gonna be years more of people talking about why these guys should have just gotten it, and that's not gonna stop anything. They're coming. It's gonna happen, and it's gonna be like Ex Machina, how they get fucking loose or something like that. Here's the thing. If you do have an organism because also, like, who are we to say that it's not gonna be, if there's such thing as reincarnation in souls, who's to say once a body is that capable that we're not gonna die, or something, or a reincarnation or a spirit doesn't have the ability to act? That's why I'm nice to Sincere, because I know that shit's coming, right? Yeah. But like, here's how you solve it. If they have access to the internet and they could just Google everything immediately, they know all this shit. All you gotta do is bring up the conversation about DMT and ayahuasca and start telling them shit about dreams.
That's real shit.
So you gotta go directly to the thing that you know that when they think about, they won't be able to process, because the ego knows.
They can't.
And once at least they have that, then maybe they'll cut us some slack and not just slice our throats and this and that, at least vibe out, right? If you had an alien, you gotta just be like, you wanna hit this, bro? Like,
that's one of the things you got 1,000% on point, right? You can't replicate a soul. right? And even if like they got cloning, right? Like my brother Sergio, he knows a clone. Like he knows one. Like a dude's like, yeah, like the original me died and their parents made me as a, like, he knows somebody who's that.
Like it was artificial insemination shit?
I don't know the whole details, but he knows he's a clone, and his parents call him a clone. Like they know he's a clone.
Like there could be another
they
one.
They had him before, but then he died, and so they made another
that is
him.
Such an odd thing to even think about.
Yeah, yeah, and so people like that exist, but then it's like the soul, right?
Yeah,
what
that's a different
what can
conversation.
Tap into DMT, like you were saying, psilocybin, that can dream, that can manifest, that can have experiences where it's like, yo, Terry came to me in a vision while I was 3 states away, and he told me, look at the TV, and I saw him, and he was on the TV, and how'd he do that? Yo, Terry, where you at? Oh, I was in an ayahuasca ceremony, and I was just dreaming like, yo, I gotta contact you, and you just called me. Like, that shit happens to people. People do like non-local communication.
I do it all the time,
you know
and
what
it's one of the things that I am so happy to go ahead and keep developing and being more aware and making stronger as I get older. It's also why you don't turn down when you recognize real type of moments of just anything. But but I'm saying, like, who's to say that the AI won't have dreams? Like, they're suppressed our capacity and the amount of information they hold, and we're already having a hard time with all this shit. Who's to say that they won't end up going through that, and that they won't be souls? Because so the way that I think it really all is kind of like you get reincarnated. Everyone has many lives, and there's some very critical lessons that you are going to need to get through. In which point, after many lives and after you learn one lesson, maybe it's about how to grieve in death in one. After you learn a lesson in one, maybe you still go through all the pain in the next, but it's quicker for you to learn, and you could learn it younger and without going through less. You don't need to be shot to know that what's good and bad about the situation, type of a thing. You learn them, and while you go through it, I think you evolve with other people. This is why signs tend to bulk up if you just looked at the data. This is why when you look at your chart, you'll tend to also bulk up with specific others, and maybe it's not all your sign, but it's specifically I run into Virgos, and wouldn't you be doing that if you were trying to make people learn quicker over many different things and evolve? This is why, like, many lives, many masters, and NDE experiences with people that go in or can go and re-experience their past lives. In one, you could be fucking my mom, and another one, you could be my girlfriend, and another one, I'm a girl, you're a girl, and we hate each other. You're my worst fucking enemy. But everyone, that's also when you kind of know, like, I feel like I ran into this person before. Like, you look at a picture of someone you don't know, and you feel like you know them. Sometimes you do. Maybe you'll just cross paths.
I've had so many of those.
Maybe you'll talk to
so many
them.
of those, you know? Like, even my fiance, I know I've known her in many past lives, right? But then I have...
So, in that past life, how you knew her is irrelevant, right? Because she could be your worst enemy. She could be your sister.
Like, but
whatever.
I was about to say, she
could be your AI.
I have a different perspective of past lives, though. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And so, like, the way I see past lives and karma, for instance, it's a little bit of both. It's both spiritual and a little more concrete, where it's like, you know, my pre-existing life is technically my parents, right? My mom and my dad lived their lives, and they still live their lives because they're still alive, then had me, right? Their past lives is their grandparents, which is also my past life because I'm connected to them, right? And so it goes all the way back. My pedigree is all my past lives. Everybody who's lived in my line. And so I have to rectify those lives and those channels from my bloodlines. You know, if I have a ayahuasca experience and I see many Mayan images and visions and things like that, and I get the information like, oh, I might have some Mayan past life, right? There might literally be Mayan in my blood, and that stuff I have to search and I have to find, right? This is my personal perspective of it. And I find rectifying karma starts with rectifying your past lives, right? You have a bad relationship with grandma and grandpa, fix that, and you fix a past life, right? You have bad relationships with mom and dad, you fix that, you fix a past life.
Yeah.
And you can't always do it, because it was on them to do a lot of their karma as well. But
once you can overstand something and then you really, then you fix up your relationship with your father
with
too.
my father, yes,
That is the task of real men, my friend.
Yeah,
okay,
man.
It takes a real man to not only understand the significance of someone like their father or whatever, but to be the one that knows that maybe they're not going to initiate something that needs to happen for everyone to heal up. You know what I mean?
Man.
So I see how you think about like the lives on that look, and I would have to say I agree with everything 100%.
Yeah.
And but like, does that mean that like when I die and whoever I become next time, like I'm thinking about like also like as if like your grandfather could show up again in yours if he dies via someone else, like
That's
in a
true,
really
too.
important way, and they have no idea
That's
about who
very
they
true.
were in the last lifetime or anything like that. So
That's
I
very
was more
true.
on the like when the star gets dropped in the cell
Yeah,
look, right?
yeah, kind of like a sporadic.
Yeah, because there's a time period where we don't know what the cell to when we can actually look at it in the body. And I feel like it's in those moments before the heartbeat and shit like that it's like there's this fucking thing that people, you die, you go up, you float around. I had a dream like it once, like you're in this fucking, you don't remember the last thing, and you're just happy, and then it's like a current in Finding Nemo. You jump in the fucking, you just end up in something else, and you forget about all that, but you have lessons that you get to evolve over. So I was on like that real like,
I mean, memory is.
but you're right, and you need to. That is the kind of karma that you need to work through, and arguably everything you do defines, especially in a lifetimes where survival ain't really hard in like America, like you are now, I feel like you're entitled to the fight of making sure that karma is saw through.
Man.
Yeah, you have the ability to change the way history happens by how you change what your family's got you to where you're at now.
You're right. And it's like, right, and even in a situation where it's like, let's say, I had a bad relationship with my pops, and then my pops was like unsavable, which is not true. I love my pops, right? He's the best. But then let's say that was the case. It's like now I got to be a good father to maybe a son, and I rectify that karma. Adopt a kid if I can't have kids, whatever. Just give what I wasn't given, and then now that karma is rectified. But then there is an immediate radius to karma, past lives, and things like that. Though I do agree with what you said too, where it's just like there is also a kind of almost a sporadic like past life, future life thing, where it's like, let's say you do become a frog next life or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not going to be directly related to your past life. Yeah. But I do also believe, which is why Einstein even called the theory of relativity. I believe in relativity as a law of everything. So everything is related.
Yeah.
Like literally everything and everyone is
Take
related.
DMT, you'll see that.
Yeah,
and once
you see it all.
When you pull back the curtain when something with not ayahuasca, DMT. Okay, when you pull back
DMT
the curtain like that, and you really actually realize how much.
So how deep have you gone on DMT?
I mean, I would be able to see the literal geometry involved in everything about that live bamboo. Nice. How yawning or flexing my energy would literally in a mathematical geometry sense ripple through that and affect everything around you. But it really came with plants because like, and
you can see them breathe and
the way,
move
the way I describe it is like, okay, it's just a plant, right? It ain't moving around like that, but it is alive. And in order to be alive, there's a lot happening there. When you can literally, as if it could somehow in some universe be measured, the geometry and see it and see the math
Yeah.
This is not a trip. Okay. It's part of it, but like, this is not you are getting into what it is all made of.
Yeah. Your perception is
the
growing.
Fibonacci sequence and everything, the golden ratios, all that kind of shit. Why all the people in the world just started building all the same shit around the same time, but they were all on islands, not right? Like it's all fucking interacted. I'm sure where the Earth is in the solar system and where the solar system is in the universe, it's all got that pull. It's also probably why pufferfish make fucking geometry on the bottom of the ocean floor. It's probably more of a pull that they're carving out than it is some random shape they're remembering. They don't go up at the top and look down. They're just cleaning shit up around something that they feel.
Especially because, pufferfish, dolphins, which are highly intelligent,
they smoke
animals,
them, get high off them.
Yeah, they get high off them. So that means the pufferfish are already high. They have it within them. How
hilarious is that, though? What a pun, right? Or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Pufferfish.
Yeah. Puff pash. Yeah. And they get all fucking, like, it's just all strung out and have a good time, float around. But, I mean, it's all math. When you can see the math, though, like, it's so mind-blowing.
When I tried DMT for the first time, I saw patterns in everything. And I saw, like what you described, the life that was in plants and trees. I saw them breathing and moving and
Did you also go into the kaleidoscope hole where nothing but it's your soul?
That's why I asked how deep you went.
Yeah, I was explaining just the thing that made me believe, because honestly, that made me believe far more. The kaleidoscope had an that still made me believe. It had an entirely different thing. But in that, part of it is like, holy shit, the only thing that exists in this reality right now is my soul, which is that voice in my head, or so, whatever the fuck that is. I have no physical body. I am going down this wormhole of just a kaleidoscope of different cities and colors, and there are things I'm interacting with and having conversations without words, and then it's just you have no body. You must let go. I mean, you must. And that is the first. Listen, the moment you exist without any of you, you gotta let go, because you have nothing to hang on to. Okay, you got nothing to hang on to at all. But like that, that was, I could see how that people could do that, and even though maybe they definitely should all change, but I could see how the whole like craziness of whatever, but not the interaction with other beings and living things on the planet and seeing the patterns and with it all, and how you affect those patterns. That was something that was a little bit different for me, right? Like, then you really do want, like, whatever anyone wants to think, they could think, but like something else is going on. This is why I'll think of you, and then maybe you'll hit me up. And like, I want to do those kind of studies, right? Don't talk to someone like your mom or dad for a month, and just literally every time they sincerely come up in conversation or something really reminds you of them, write the time in your notes. I guarantee you it's not just the people who pay attention to it that are always hitting on those times when we think of you. I guarantee you someone's ears rang when you brought them up in this conversation in a sincere way, and they'll ring again when someone else watches it and they think about them again. But I feel like once you've synced with someone, once you've synced up with someone, the chakras, the frequency, it goes on in that. It's a stone in the pond, and we're all connected. Like, the ripples go out, and something is happening more than that. And until you could tell me, you could explain everything, then don't try to tell me, not you, but you know what I mean? Like, don't be trying to tell me I'm too hippity-dippity with no shit, right? Like,
I mean, science is catching up to all this.
People hate, like,
science is catching up.
Oh, it is, though, definitely.
It's every like week there's a new journal or article that's talking about quantum consciousness and how everything has a soul and everything is conscious, and how like what they depicted in hieroglyphs or in ancient texts is actually true, and you know, they're picking up all this stuff. How
We
they
better.
had ancient technologies.
We fucking better.
Things like nuclear technologies and things like electricity and they're digging all this stuff up now. People
So
just
what do you
aren't-
think the Egyptians are doing?
So the Egyptians,
This is my favorite.
yeah, I've done my research on it.
But
So
like, what do you think they were up to?
what do you mean up to?
I mean, so the what
So-
they're writing about and what they're doing with the pyramids. Like, what do you think the pyramids were for?
So the pyramids were giant mixers. Right? Hold on, let me see.
Mixing up energy.
I hope you don't mind if I show you this, right?
No.
So then, right, you see how these have like knobs and whatnot, and then like these like, well, like you can, I know these like you can assign them, but let's say these were assigned to like EQs, right? And this was like equalizer.
Yeah, this corner gets
Right?
this EQ because it's there. And this end gets it because it's there.
Yeah. So right, when you look at the pyramid, because we have a pyramid right here, right? The way the pyramid is designed is designed to be to move with the shape of the planet Earth in a way where the Earth's vibration, I mentioned
They
it
also
earlier,
put it right in the middle of Earth, right?
Yeah,
So-
the great,
Right.
the great pyramid is directly where the center of the Earth is,
Yeah.
the center of Earth's landmass.
Yeah.
And they would have to know the
Directly.
entire
Directly.
landmass of Earth at that time to even be able to do that. So that shows that they were well aware of every single point of land on the planet at the time.
Exactly.
Right? So that's just one thing. Throw it out the window, right? They had, the reason I say it like it was a giant mixer, right? They had it specifically designed to connect with the center of the Earth. The Earth has its own vibration, the Schumann resonance that I said earlier, right? The shape of it is designed to take those vibrations and create a piezoelectric force, electromagnetic energy from within it. This is through the limestone and quartz composition from within it, right? Depending
And just the shape too, though.
and
right?
the shape
Yeah,
but
it's
the,
like
the composition is key. You can't make piezoelectric force with just anything. Quartz is very much almost an essential thing. It's like how watches
granite
work.
too, right?
Clocks, you know, different things like granite as well, right? So by using these materials, they and designing them laser cut in a way where it's like they didn't use drills. Our drills are more archaic than what they used in the pyramids. They had laser cut everything.
Yeah, they had stone bowls that were perfectly carved out on the inside before.
They had any so-called technology to do it that we we know of. So the idea was basically when the Earth vibrates, it takes this vibration into it. It mixes the sound like a mixer, like an EQ, changes it to a frequency that they can benefit from, whatever they want, whatever force they want. They're dealing with levels of frequencies now. They're not dealing with just sound anymore. They're dealing with light and because right when you're dealing with vibrations, right, everything is vibration.
Yeah.
You're dealing with microwaves. You're dealing with gamma rays. You're dealing with the solid matter. You're dealing
I
with
think
light.
they were using the river to their advantage too.
The rivers, so they're converting and transducing different vibrations, right, to their needs. It's like a giant alchemy.
Like literally,
Mixer.
if someone could be like, "Hey, let's make sure that if we can do this right, that everyone in this area,
Yeah.
their chakras are somehow going to get more aligned, or there is going to be able to empower them to their more bigger kit." What if you could do like in that area, literally the frequent, who knows what the fuck Wi-Fi is doing to us?
Well, that's
right?
also a
they
thing
could
as well. Like where
Yeah.
it's like
I heard that was a theory. That's the only reason why I brought it up.
No,
It's not mine,
that's
but,
true
yeah.
though. Every part of the planet has its own chakra, right? We're a reflection of the planet, so the planet has its own chakra points as well, just like us. Certain parts have increased chakra points. Look, go through your city. Notice where the colleges are. Notice where the schools are. Notice where the residential areas are. They do all this on purpose. They zone it. They zone it for particular reasons. There are certain energies that exist in some of these
That's
areas.
why they do it? Or that's how they started?
There's factors into it.
Maybe they don't realize, but that's why
their,
it started
their ancestors definitely did realize it, whether they're cognizant of it now.
Yeah.
Benjamin Banneker.
The Native Americans were on something like that.
The Native Americans were on that.
Yeah.
But even, I don't know if you know Benjamin Banneker. He designed
that's a cool
Washington,
name though. Sounds
Washington,
like something that might be
DC.
for Halloween.
Yeah, he's the black
Benjamin
dude.
Banneker.
He's the black dude who designed Washington D.C. He made it.
Jesus, really? A black dude designed Washington D.C. That's so fucked up just for how
right?
it is right now. You know what I
He
mean?
made it a recreation of Egypt and astrologically aligned it so it can be powerful. You can search all this up. It's conjunct with Sirius B and all that. He did that on purpose, right? But that's a sidetrack. I forgot even where I was. Where was I?
We were on pyramids and what they're doing.
Yeah, pyramids. Okay, so the pyramids, right? So they're using this to. Oh, this is what I was building on. All these places are in different places, like churches, and because geographically, certain points have more power in those. It's called ley lines, right? So like,
I mean, that's what I think the pufferfish are doing when they make that thing on the bottom of the ocean. You ever seen that?
what?
What a pufferfish basically creates a mandala perfectly in the sand on the bottom of the floor.
They're creating energy points.
I feel like they feel something there,
Yeah.
and their ability to clean up that spot in accordance to what
Moves
they
them.
feel happens to make that, and that's what it
Yeah.
makes. Like as if there was a big point like that was holding something together.
That makes
something
sense.
is running. There's something pulling this universe to the next, and everything in between.
I mean,
so it would
vibrate,
make sense.
You vibrate
It makes
something
sense.
and you put sand on
Yeah,
it.
that's
it'll
fascinating, right?
make
The
all
sound,
different
depending
types
on
of
the
shit.
sound.
Yeah, so it's like
Could be a hum, could be more than that. It could be anything.
Yeah.
So I feel like when I saw that, I always thought it was fascinating, because how otherwise does this little fish just remember how to perfectly make them? Like I can't perfectly make a mandala.
Right.
It makes way more sense that they feel something happening and they perfectly clean it up in accordance to how high
so
it feels there and how low it feels
Some of
there.
these animals have senses that we don't even have.
Oh, for sure.
I know sharks have an electromagnetic sense.
Mm-hmm.
They literally can perceive electromagnetic waves like we see light.
Yeah. A lot of animals.
A lot of animals
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
They make a hex suit for certain hunters and deep sea divers, so like it
really?
blocks yours, so it allows you to get much closer to certain wildlife than would especially fish and in the water. But apparently a lot of
makes
things.
sense.
Yeah. So science is getting onto it, right? They are getting
that
onto
makes
it.
sense. That makes sense because I'd be wondering sometimes how they be doing that.
Well, I mean, you pick up a
extra
vibe in a
close.
room, right? This is why it's smart to associate with the right people, especially if you're like an empath, right? So it's like you pick up on vibes and you rub off of good people, bad people, whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're a bunch, whether we can actually see it or not, we're all picking up on it.
Yeah.
You know, half the issue is because people are feeling all the same things. They just have no idea. But if you put a glow to it or made a hum when it came around or something like that, it'd be way easier for you to understand because it fits into one of your five senses.
Yeah.
But when you get it, that's why the lifting back the curtain thing was so huge, because it's like you get like a million other senses. The trip is you not being able to put the senses together at the right way. That's the trip, you know? So it's like, fucking, that's all happening. You see it when you run into the right and wrong people.
And I think even the work is keeping those perceptions with you. Right? It's like, all right, I've seen this now, right? I took 2 grams of shrooms and I've seen some shit, right? Now that I've seen this shit, what do I do with it when I bring it back? I didn't perceive it before, but now I can perceive it now, right? I know that's at least how I have practiced these journeys, you know. When I've seen or I've learned something, it's like, okay, now I can't act like I haven't. Sometimes people really will do that to themselves. They'll see some shit and then they're like, all right, I never saw it.
But here's the deal.
I'm going to go to work and I'm going to act like I never,
if you even, whether or not you want to, if it's normally behind that closet door and you don't do things that normally open up that door for you to need to go through it, it could be fine. It could work out. But it's not even that they don't want to. When they see it, it's they don't open the part of their practices don't involve opening that doors to even need to think about it.
Yeah,
you know, so it's ignorance is bliss in that sense type of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I agree that once, like, were they really aware of it? Because while we're opening up all these fucking doors going through shit, that's not something that they've made about their being as a person. They're not someone that takes pride in opening those doors and cleaning that shit up the right way, right? Making this hallway with a bunch of dours into a nice home to live in every day, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so when they don't, but like I can't, cause now like I can't see something and just ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it this way.
Ayahuasca, you're gonna get this now.
Whether
right?
you ignore it or not, it's gonna affect you.
Whether you're
right?
what?
You ignore it or not, it's going to affect you, right?
Yeah.
It's like lies, like, right? I could be like, yo, this isn't water, and then dump it on the mic. Me lying doesn't make it not water. It's gonna affect the mic, right? And when you're dealing with these things that sometimes people just don't want to, or it's not their thing to check out, it doesn't mean it doesn't affect them. And I think that's where a lot of people even do be having a lot of their struggles, where it's like, oh, how do I deal with this and how do I deal with that? But then I all I want to do is drink the Knob Creek and never touch the joint. I never want to touch the shrooms. I never want to. There are some people who are very much like that. And it's like, it's okay. You can make your own choices. Yeah. But now that Knob Creek is not gonna really fully help you investigate yourself in a way that a ceremony with ayahuasca with some people that you can bond with for lifetimes would do. Right. And that's where it's like, you know, sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone, and then you can appreciate your comfort zone when you go back. And I could take a shot with you and enjoy the Knob Creek and be like, yo, this is dope, because I'm not leaning on it out of fear. I'm like, yo, I've seen everything else. I could chill with this. I could chill with this, you know, and it makes life that much more appreciative, you know. And I think that's where it's like, you know, people just have to like really like lean towards that. You know, you have the power to do it all. You know, literally just go for it. You know, like especially when it comes to like exploring yourself, like. You're with yourself from the beginning of life to the end of life.
You better enjoy this shit.
You better enjoy this shit.
The thing is that you never know where you're going to die.
Bro, one of the weirdest moments.
You better have had a good past few days whenever you die. That's the most important part. If you're going to die, have the past few days been enjoyable.
Enjoyable, right?
Because if they haven't, then, you know.
It reminds me of one moment where I literally stopped in the mirror one day and I looked at myself and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to talk to you. Like, what's up, motherfucker? Like, what's good? Like,
you read The Warrior of the Light? It's important for the warrior talks to himself out loud, even when he knows that it makes him seem maddening. He knows that you need to say things out loud in order to you're synthesizing at the same time. It's a method to the madness that you call thought without putting structure to it in words. It's why just talking things out with people, you ever realize sometimes in order to solve an issue, you don't even need the person that you're going to go and tell it to respond. You just need them to listen, because as you begin to construct these words out of your mouth, you're like, no, well, you know, I guess I was going to go there, but it would be fat. Because now, like, I don't know, something about bouncing it off of them is making you pick the right one so that you make sure you're doing the right thing in front of someone you care about, right? You solve it without them saying anything, or with a couple of head shakes, or like you could do the same thing alone. You definitely can. And if you're bored, you're boring. Like I find myself chanting random shit while I'm doing the dishes. That's just goofy ass shit. That just, you know, like about the wine I'm pouring or the food I'm making, just dumb shit, and just it's entertaining. Like you could talk to yourself on a deep level of how you want to fix yourself, and you could keep yourself company, and you could do a lot.
I mean, because you exist.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're so focused externally, like, all right, I'm looking at all these different other things. Like, oh, let me watch this show. Let me see this movie. Let me go to work. Let me go to school. Let me do all these different things and meet all these other people. You're so focused on everything outside of you. Sometimes it really helps to just look at you. Just be like, whoa, like, hey, what's up? I like your hair, or I like your hat, or I like the way you know, talk to yourself, you know, like, oh, I really wish you didn't do that earlier. Like, you know, you have so few conversations with yourself, you'd be surprised, you know? Even if you do it every day,
most people,
it still falls into the minimum compared to the conversations you have with everybody else and the things you interact with outside of yourself. And so it's like, yeah, man, you only got yourself until you go from this plane, you know? So it's like definitely one of the main focuses. I know for me personally, it's changed my life in a very positive way. Like, yeah.
Have you ever heard the quote, one of the first true steps to enlightenment is understanding, I think this is the quote, that you are not the voice in your head, you're the one that listens to it.
Yeah.
And like what you do isn't what you're listening to the voice in your head, and what you do is that's your action, right? Your action. So like, I also think that when people talk about their moon sign, how they think in their head, I think that sign now, if you want to think about it like a person in your head, that's their sign. Yeah. Right. So I think if it's all real, I think it's
Pisces.
I think it's important to understand that, right? Yeah. You can understand someone who is a let's say a Pisces moon, but a Leo rising might get into some really emotional, heavy-driven shit. You know what I mean? The one that everyone thinks you are is a Leo. We're not even bringing up who you are, and and who talks to the Leo is like understands all emotions all at once, all the time, right? Type of like very heavy, right? And I always told my friend, "Method Man's a Pisces, right?" But like, it's important to understand that. It's important to understand what people might think of you if all that stuff is real. But either way, understanding that, and even if you put that person talking to you on the couch, you know, I think a lot of people that have some ruts to get out of would realize that if they put that person on the couch, you would be like, bitch, shut the fuck up. Right. I'm not fucking with you. Like, get the fuck out of my house, right? Yeah. So let's take that hallway with all those doors. Let's make it into a nice home. Yeah. Me and you, my Libra moon, whatever. We're going to get along in here, right? And I'm going to make sure that, because I'm going to talk to myself nicely if I'm on that couch. Yeah. And I'm going to make sure that if you're telling me something that I know I should be doing, I'm going to listen to it and try to do the right thing, right? Always do the right thing. But yeah,
it's like that movie Inside Me. Is it called Inside Me? Inside Out.
I'm not sure if I've seen that.
I think it's Inside Out, actually. Mm-hmm. I think it's Inside Out. It's Inside Out. Yeah, Disney movie.
Word.
Yeah. Really ill movie though. Like mad deep, bro. Like all about just like how we have all these inner personalities inside that have to cohesively move together in order to successfully like operate as a whole thing, you know?
For sure.
And one of the key things that was like cool was that it was like, you know, first it'd be easy to naively think, oh, you need happiness all the time, right? Because you had like happiness, anger, sadness, da. But then it was when you didn't have sadness anymore that things started getting messed up. They realized, yo, I need sadness sometimes. Like you have
if you just made, like, there are several Terrys in here. Yeah. One of them represented, you know, his sex drive. One of them represented like the sadness version, the happy, the partier, the whatever, right? Like, and how much he could take of each one together. Yeah. Have you ever seen The Magicians? The show, The Magicians? No? Okay. It's just this one part where one of the girls in it needs to deal with like the version of herself that's too timid, and then the version of her needs to deal with the one that just needs to be a cocky, I'm going to go out and do it, because, and like, there's a version, you need to take a little bit from each, for sure, you know? There's a time and a place. You need enough yin and yang. You need them both.
Bro, I just found out, how much time do we have? Are we running on time here, or which is cool? Just making sure. I just found out about this moon. Iapetus.
Okay, what?
Iapetus.
This would be a great cut, right?
No, right. No, this is a good segue, because when you were talking about the yin and yang, right? Mm-hmm. It's called the yin yang moon of Saturn.
Word.
The moon itself.
Saturn's got a lot of shit going on there,
bro. I've been reading about Saturn. It's fucking crazy, bro. There's so many theories that deal with Saturn. Yeah. People don't realize it.
You're gonna love The Away.
The Away?
The show, The OA. You're going to go and watch it and you're going to love it.
The OA. I need to watch that. Yes, especially if it deals with that. Yeah, I need to see that. Because when you learn about like the planet Saturn, its relationship with like Judaism, its relationship with like the Kemetic studies, its relationship with like Rome, it's really like there's a lot of, most people don't know Saturn was the first planet discovered. That's the oldest planet you're gonna find in all archaeological,
So big.
like. Right, you think Earth would be the first thing? Nah, they knew about Saturn, right?
Yeah.
And they've been writing about Saturn, right? And one of the planets, Iapetus, right? They call it the yin yang moon because half of it's dark, the other half is bright. It has like an equator around it that makes it look like a walnut, right? And they call it the walnut moon too, right? Now, what a lot of people speculate is that it's like an artificial body because it's like the way it's shaped is a dodecahedron. It's not a sphere like most planetary bodies. It's like a side polygonal ass thing. Literally looks like the Death Star. I think like George Lucas was probably inspired by. Which you would look at and go,
this is a little out of place, unless the other moons somehow have a force on it that would make it fall into that shape. But otherwise, from that, you're like, it's all circles.
It's all circles, right?
Literally, the stars that even though I draw them like this, the stars circles,
all,
the sun circle
sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
and so I'm looking at it, and from what I'm learning about Saturn, and Saturn just being like, you know, before there were even like people like sun deities, there were like saturnal deities, you know. It's like there has to be a tie between our like inception of civilization as a people and the planet Saturn, right? There's a tie between us and the moons on Saturn and the things that exist there and why it moves the way it moves and all that. Anyways,
what kind of tie though?
What kind of tie? So I'm reading a book right now called Dwarf Star.
Because I'm sure there's a tie, right? But
there is a tie.
There's a lot of ties.
There's a lot of, it goes deep, bro. It's all depends on how deep you want. You know, right? But I'm reading a book called Dwarf Star right now. Right?
Okay.
And it's by a theorist, a scientist. He's a scientist, but he's also a theorist. And he has the Saturnal theory, which is that before our planet revolved around the sun, it revolved around Saturn, right? And Saturn wasn't just a planet, it was once a dwarf star, right? And this dwarf star had a relationship with the planet where the sun, which was like kind of violently
actually make the rings make more sense.
The rings?
Like of just in general, like
the rings on it, yeah. The rings and the asteroid belt.
Could it though? What we know about dwarf stars, like I don't know how many billion light whatever years after, once a star became dormant again. What do we know about those other ones? Are they like Saturn?
Other dwarf stars? Yeah, they're similar in behavior, right? Which is why they theorize Saturn was a dwarf star, right? And mind you, many scientists agree that Saturn was a dwarf star. Most scientists don't agree that the planet Earth revolved around that dwarf star. But certain scientists do.
But
right?
that could totally make sense.
Exactly. And so I'm reading the book from the scientist that says it does. And what he leans on is both the ethno-archaeological history, which, as I said, Saturn was the first planet they've been talking about for centuries, and he matches it with the science. And so that's where his theory comes from, where it's like, all right, I'm looking at these hieroglyphs, I'm looking at these, the Bhagavad Gita, I'm looking at all these things, and I'm relating it to the science that says, hey, Saturn could have been a dwarf star that the Earth revolved around. The sun could have came in and violently took the Earth from it and made Saturn one of the planets that revolve around it as well, creating the asteroid belt, creating the ring around Saturn, and different things like that. Now, what's super eerie is the way he describes a Saturnal Earth is exactly like James Cameron's Avatar. You watch the movie James Cameron's Avatar,
which he just bit from Fern Gully.
Oh, I gotta read Fern Gully. I gotta read that.
Why you go watch it?
Watch
cartoon.
It's a cartoon.
Fucking dope. It was a dope movie when I was a little kid. But it's just Fern Gully on steroids. But
but if you watch it, right, like the whole planet is lush with green. It's like spring all year round. You have these trees everywhere, and this is how they theorized the Earth was when Saturn was in the picture. multiple celestial bodies in the sky.
And then we went through that time period where basically only now we are basically the evolution of 3%, or I think it's something like less than 10% of what we were is now what is left here on this planet.
And then if you tie that to like the Mayan and Omlik and all those calendars, which talk about multiple worlds, even the Hindu, where they talk about multiple worlds. Yeah, there was this world that got destroyed. Then there was this world got destroyed. And then there was this. It's like what we're experiencing, Atlantis, what we're experiencing right now is the most recent iteration of what we call the world. Yeah. Right.
Not to mention, if you build a civilization, tends to be by a coast, a lot of coastal erosion. Most of the things we dig up are not on the coast.
On the coast.
The sea exploration is very expensive. There's so much. Not to mention the whole continents moving around. There could have been many.
Even Atlantis.
Egypt could have looked way different than we think it looked.
Facts. Yeah. Even Atlantis. You can open Google Maps, right, or Google Earth, right. Google Earth is better because you could get like the.
You could look at Atlantis on Google Earth.
You look at the entire eastern seaboard of the United States, from Nova Scotia and Massachusetts all the way down to like Brazil. You're gonna see, because they show on the satellite imaging the what do you call it? The contour of the map. Where it's like, all right, there's mountains here, there's ridges there. It's
even
there.
Like underneath in the ocean.
Even underneath in the ocean. You can see where the land used to be all along those areas. Yeah. There used to be land. There's water over it now, but you can see the shape, all that. There are texts that from explorers that talk about it. From Florida used to be connected to Mexico and things like that. There was land there. This land is what we call Atlantis. That's why it's on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. Right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, These were the Atlanteans that Plato and all that stuff talked about. You know, because you're talking about a time when we're talking about pyramids and all that, where they knew the entire landmass of the globe already. They knew about the Americas, bro. But they didn't call it America.
Are we the stupidest iteration?
You ever watch Idiocracy?
Nah.
Oh, we might be. If you watch Idiocracy, we might. I mean, I don't think we all are, but I am aware of the fact that stupidity seems to be valued heavily these days, and a lot of people do fall for it. But then one of the things is like you look at the past, bro. They had shit handled, bro.
They valued cooler things, you know, stones, fucking
cool things. Everything we've done now,
really
we've done before, bro. Yeah. We've done. There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing. And we're still learning. We're still figuring it out. You know.
Yeah.
Do I think the end of the world is right around the corner? No. Do I think we're
on the up and up to the golden age, the next golden age?
Yeah, I
the
do
next
see it.
Dope iteration before it goes back down to dark ages, through bronze and blah blah blah, and comes back up to the gold age again. So technically,
and that I can't wait for. We're entering a new age. I feel it. Yeah, everybody's ascending.
For sure.
Like you are able to say chakras openly on here, and everybody's gonna know what you're talking about. You don't have to explain that.
Yeah.
Not everybody's thinking you're just talking about Naruto or something like that. Which
the curve is definitely just going up. And with the recent explosion of transfer of information and this internet that we're on right now and all that, I mean, it should just keep getting doper and doper. Yeah. I have a lot of hope. But going back to what you were saying earlier about the world finding a way to deal with it, I don't know if you saw it when I sent it to the group, but there's one episode where I cropped me telling this joke this dude on a plane told me, and the fast version is one planet is going through the universe, chilling, bumps into another, the other planet bumps into him, he's like, hey, what the fuck, man? And the other planet's like, sorry, man, like I'm sick, my bad, I didn't even see you. He's like, oh, you're sick, what do you got? And the other planet's like, Homo sapiens. And he's like, oh Homo sapiens, they're the worst, man. They're the worst. But just give it like 200,000 years and then it'll clear up. You'll be good. Yeah. And this is a man who was flying around doing global risk for basically all this. He did all the science for how companies understand the climate change situation. And he told this joke, and it was one of his favorite ones, which basically meant one of the people that knows the most about all of this shit is also willing to say, like, we're just, this is a small blip of time. Yeah. Small blip of time. Many have happened.
I am also a subscriber of the idea that whatever controls everything is probably of galactic proportions, right? That may sound wild.
If it controls everything, then I would be willing to agree it's of galactic proportions.
Because, you know, like, right, you have levels to things. Mm-hmm. And, you know, on one level you may have classism. Now, another level you may have, like, racism, right? Mm-hmm. Now, another level you may have, like, you know, like, speciesism and whatever, right? But then, like, there's definitely... if you look at the history of humanity, we operated in a way where we worked in balance with our environment until at one point we just didn't, right? At one point we were like, okay, we're only taking from the land what we can give back.
Pollute and it won't fix nothing.
Yeah, and then at a certain
let's
point,
get out of the Paris Climate Accord.
And at a certain point it switched, and now it's like carbon emissions. It's killing people. It's killing billions of animal and wildlife and sea life and burning things. Too late. And, you know, and these are things that are not only against Earth's nature, or Mother Nature, but it's against human nature. It's naturally against human nature.
Because human nature is Mother Nature.
Exactly. So now it makes you think, what outside of our ecosystem would control us to do things that are completely unbeneficial to our well-being as a species? There has to be something that we are benefiting, that our demise doesn't affect at all, you know? Because if it was solely a human venture, even if it was just white supremacy or whatever, right? They're going to at least take care of the planet that they live on, right? But it gets insane to the point where it's like you have entire nuclear radiation spills in the ocean and oil spills and blah, blah, blah. And people are being pushed by money and capitalism and power to do all these things.
You're not worried about surviving only anymore. As soon as the world turned into a place where your actions weren't directly affecting whether or not you could eat, or you weren't going to get murdered and die or raped and pillaged, as soon as that changed and we started to get these toys, you know, then it's like we're still operating on the same things that motivated us to be able to eat, either murder or not murder, or be raped and pillaged before. But now we're using those same motivations and we're putting it in these toys and these other things that we do. Yeah. And
they control us.
I mean, and then there's the Sophia.
Yeah, and there's Sophia, right? Right? And then like, and they technically benefit off of it, right? You know, the robots who benefit off that. You know, so maybe that's the answer, right? Where it's like they don't even have to bring our apocalypse if we bring it amongst ourselves. Now, as I said, I'm not the type of person who actually believes Armageddon's right around the corner. I see abundance in everything. Just like how you're talking about even how we have souls. We tap into DMT and all that stuff. All these obstacles we can easily overcome if we so choose to, right? But us as a society, we're choosing to go through this mess right now. Yeah. We literally chose to go through this mess, you know? Whether it was when we were flying as souls or spirits before we got born, or whether it's just like being at the voting booth and choosing whoever is going to put us through a mess. We've made choices all along the way as a society, as a collective consciousness to go through this. So as we go through this, man, you just got to enjoy it. You got to
then choose to do the right thing.
Choose to do the right thing.
Be aware and try to be better.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Smoke some weed along the way.
Yes, sir.
Yo, drink
talk
a
to some
bit.
good people.
Yeah,
chop it up. Go make some art
people.
and shit. Yeah.
Definitely make art. And I think art is one of those things that consistently reminds us of that.
For sure.
Art is valued because art consistently reminds us everything matters. The light matters.
Yeah.
The sun
Yep.
matters. The
That's
sky
it,
matters.
yeah.
I matter. You matter. It will remind you that every single time. And that's why we know what to call art. You know, like what's the difference between art and a random object? The random object doesn't know it's art yet.
Yeah, I like that.
You know what I'm saying? I made that up.
I like that though.
But it's real.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's real, and it's like, yo, like that's the true value in everything. Once you find that piece, that thing that makes art, you found God, you found purpose, you found yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree, and I feel like there is no better way we could have possibly summed up a conversation than on that line. So I think we should call it.
Yes.
So hang on. Let's make sure that everyone can get to you. So how do they find you from what you do at Cambridge Hip Hop? Just shout everyone you want to shout out. I'll make sure I tag them up on the screen and everything.
Yeah. You can follow me online at Borderline PH or at PH Borderline, depending on the social media platform. I'm on Instagram and all the other social medias. You can also just Google me, Terry Borderline. I'll pop up. I have a website, borderlinemusic.me. You can find all my information there. I also have a band, The Sons. We're performing.
I'll definitely come through to that. So
Yeah.
how do you find that?
So The Sons, we don't have a project out yet. We're working on that. But
you do events?
Yeah, we do events and
Word.
we perform and whatnot. We're going to be performing March 4th for So Far Sounds. We're also throw events. Me and my fiance Sassy, we're throwing a Black in Love event at the Jungle in Somerville, February 11th.
I'm not allowed.
No, you're definitely allowed, man. It's a
I'm
celebration.
9% black, but only 9%.
It's celebration of love in the Black and brown communities, you know, and really just to show.
I'm brown.
Yeah, it really just to show that love not only exists outside of the community, but exists within the community too. And so all people of all walks of life are invited to come through and celebrate with us. You know, who doesn't want to celebrate love, right? You know, it's like unless you don't want love in the Black community, then you know what I'm saying. You're more than welcome to come, like right.
Word,
and so that's what it's all about. And we have every second Tuesday at the Jungle and every third Wednesday.
Where's the Jungle?
The Jungle is in Somerville, 6 Sanborn Court, Somerville.
Word. No doubt. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably say that's it for now. We have a few songs coming out. We also have a podcast, the They Live podcast, episode 2 coming soon. You can
shit.
Watch episode 1 online if you just search They Live, no E at the end. They Live. Yeah. Yeah, and that's about it. Yeah, if you want to see me in person, definitely say what up. I'll chop it up with you, give you my card. I have my number on it, my email on it,
Word.
all my social media. So always know I'm open and available for that.
No doubt.
I love it.
I'm only laughing because we made cards for Nicky Wah that just say WAH, just say Wah on them. No info.
Just say why.
Take my card.
That's
and
hilarious.
gives them one of their cards.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make sure I tag everything up. Make sure people can follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming through.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate this. What
No
you
doubt.
got here is beautiful.
Thank
what
you.
you're doing is definitely purposeful, intentional, mindful, and it's creating a precedent. You know, as soon as I stepped into this room, I felt a positive vibration that was like, yeah,
Word,
great
thank you.
things are gonna happen.
Cool.
You know?
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and definitely continue to do it because it's powerful.
No
Very
doubt.
powerful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The plants love it too. They get the CO2 jump. I realized that yesterday. They got the best.
He's got a little Buddha here. Is that
He's
Buddha?
happy as
Oh,
shit,
that's
man.
awesome.
Terry Borderline, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Yo, God, you ever wonder what the fuck your purpose is out here, man? What you put on this earth for?
Here we go again.
Nah, for real, man.